Mr. Malone.
What's going on? Good to see you again. Good to see you.
Likewise. So you've been busy, man, in the community and causing waves as always. I seen you had a few debates on Sonetta, one with my man Chris Harris, yep. And you got some things going on currently with a certain Lion Zion. I don't know if that's lion as in the animal or lion as in another way, but I'll let you break it down.
Well, if I was going to nickname him, I'd call him President Lex, because he's the president of his own fan club. So that'd be probably the most accurate nickname.
Can't argue with that.
But yeah, it's been a while. I've done some stuff on Sonetta, and I've been digging deeper into the founding history of Hebrew Israelism, finding old books and stuff like that. Today, I've interviewed a former member from F.S. Cherry's church, one of the older Hebrew Israelite congregations in America.
Okay. And how far does this doctrine go, and how similar is it to what we see today?
If we were gonna go with the first person we have on record in an official way, and then we took everything he said literal, we could say 1889, because Reverend William Christian wrote a book in 1896, which is the very first Hebrew Israelite book ever published to anyone's knowledge. And you could call him, if you wanted to, I think it'd be fair to call him something like the father of Black Israelism. So he published his book in 1896. There are no Hebrew Israelite books before that, and there are no Hebrew Israelite congregations before his. And it seems like people who came after him were influenced by them. Most of all, you can tell by their names. All of them had some variation of Church of Living God, Pillar Ground Truth kind of thrown in there, including Cherry and Crowdy. But Reverend William Christian from Arkansas already had that. And again, this book is from 1896. So, this is incredibly early. It's in the Library of Congress. They have a physical copy. It's scanned, so you can get it online. But no one really seemed to know about it, except for some scholars. But no one in the community seemed to know about it. And last Sunday brought it out, and it was interesting, very interesting. And so it's a big deal to have, see the beginning of this. Now, the Hebrew Israelites, frankly, a lot of them kind of believe their own press. So if you ask them what the first Hebrew Israelite book is, they might say the Bible, But of course, that's assuming the argument. It's assuming what we're talking about here. We're talking about someone who says, we are Israelites. Like something very explicit and plain, not something that you have to infer or guess, or a guy who said, here's a parallel between something over here and something over here. I'm talking about someone who makes the argument explicit. It's Reverend William Christian, and the book is called Poor Pilgrim's Work. And, I got it on my laptop, and I don't have a physical copy. That'd be quite amazing. The Library of Congress has a physical copy, but 1896. And he says he received the revelation about it in 1889. And it's interesting. Some of the argumentation he uses in the book, Hebrew Israelites still use to this very day.
Wow. See, I had no idea that this went back that far. I'm thinking that this was something that kind of sprang up like out of the Nation of Islam.
No.
Science Temple or something like that. So this is okay.
Yeah,
so
this is before. Yeah, this is before, because you got Nation of Islam supposed to be starting around 1935 or so. And you had dozens of Hebrew Israelite congregations way before that. Way before that. The Moors were, not too far away from the Hebrew Israelites, but it appears that they were first. But you got to understand, they didn't even say they were Hebrew Israelites back then. They would sometimes call themselves Ethiopians or Ethiopian Jews, or sometimes Black Jews. They would call themselves terms like that. They weren't saying, In fact, a lot of times they didn't even say we are Hebrews or we are Israelites. A lot of times they would say we are the true Jews. We are black Jews. And that was more the way. So saying it's the beginning of Hebrew Israelism is a little bit using our modern terminology back there. I mean, back then, if you read his book, he talked about black Jews, for example. But nonetheless, the argumentation and sentiment is the same. You know, the basic idea of his basic thesis for chapter 2, where he really lays out that case, because the whole book's not just about Hebrew Israelism. Like, he has chapters in there about people shouldn't be drinking and, you know, don't drink, don't smoke, don't chew, and don't go with girls that do type of thing, right? But chapter 2, he lays out the case, and it's basically, hey, the folks in the Bible were black. We're black. Those are our forefathers. You know, it's kind of like that. And but the book was published again in 1896, and he says he received the revelations in 1889. And we did a show on it last week on my channel. And so we go through the book and bring out some highlights and tell people how they can procure a copy as well. You know, so let me just, here I can just, if you let me share a screen, I'll show you the cover real quick.
Go for it.
Let me see. Well, let me see if it works. Sometimes when I try to share my screen, it doesn't cooperate. But let's see if I've got to set it up right here. Oh, there we go. There's the cover. Poor Pilgrim's Work in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost on Christian Friends Works First. Notice on the top there, that is the Eye of Providence. It's the Eye of Providence. So he was a Mason, as was Crowdy and as was Cherry. Now, on the bottom where it says donate to your Cash App, that's where it says who the author is. It's in the way a little bit, no big deal. And it says where it was published, which was Texarkana, Arkansas. 25 cents, the original price. Yeah. And it's written on there 1896, and apparently they received it. It even seems that year. And he also says it. I'm going to show you here in a second that it's not just that it's written on there. He says it. I'm going to bring up. Let me show you a picture of him first, and then I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. How do I get? Let's see. I need to share a different part of my screen. Let me stop that, and then let me, if I could do it again. Let me do this a different way. Sorry about that. I'm just going to share my whole other side of it. Okay, I want to do it again. If you could bring it up. Okay, there you go. That's Reverend William Christian.
Okay.
That is the father of Black Israelism, studying the Holy Bible. Notice he's not anti-Trinitarian. My teachers are God, Christ, and the Holy Ghost. Most Hebrewites these days are anti-Trinitarian. And then I'm going to show you also. There we go. That's the inside set. And many secrets may be discovered by reading this little book. The knowledge which I possess was endowed upon me in the year 1889. From some unknown power, which I called God. A little bit odd phraseology. Evangelist of Marshall County, Mississippi. So he was in Arkansas when this went down, but he was born in Mississippi. So again, this is all very southern, Mississippi, Arkansas, right? Wrote out this copy in May 1896. Those who secure a copy will not regret it. And let me show you one other thing here that's kind of fascinating. You know that a lot of Hebrewites these days are kind of anti-Semitic. I mean, they don't like that term, but whatever. If you look, it's real small. Maybe I can get a little bigger. You see who it says is it printed this? Joe Elrich's print, Texarkana. So I looked up Joe Elrich, found his tombstone, found out some other announcements about him, and they were all based in Texarkana, Arkansas. This is the same person. The dates match up. He was an Ashkenazi Jew.
Wow.
Joe Elrich. He and it's interesting because Christian was from Wrightsville, Arkansas. Texarkana is like on the border, I guess, of Texas and Arkansas, as you might tell by the name. Wrightsville's around Little Rock, so it wasn't an in-town publisher, right? You see what I'm saying? So somehow he went over to Texarkana, met up with a Jewish printer. So the very first Hebrew Israelite book that we have extant was published by a Jewish man.
Wow.
How deep is the irony there?
Damn.
Now,
Go ahead.
Now, Reverend William Christian, the author, does not appear to be a bigot. When you read through the book, he's making the basic claims, but he's not like a one-Wester where he's like, there's bigotry coming through like that. He's not really doing that kind of thing. And, there has been some historically positive relationships like this between the communities. And this is probably an example. I mean, there probably wasn't a lot of like white publishers who were going to print it, but there was a Jewish guy who said, okay, we'll do this. And so there you go. So that's kind of a fascinating thing there. But there's more I could show you. I mean, it's got like 40 some pages, and it's a pretty interesting little book. But chapter 2 is the big one where he really goes into, his basic thesis about it or whatever. There's the back. That's the back, and I'm told that's some kind of Masonic handshake. I don't know if that's true or not, but you see that. And I'll just show you one other thing, which is the table of contents to give you an idea. Yeah, see, here we go. Index. So this is like, it would be akin to a table of contents for us, right? Chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 type of thing. Oh, I said chapter 2. I guess more like chapter 3 that where he really goes in. First man and woman, the place where the fallen angels settles, the land of Nod or Isles, and the starting point of the Gentiles. Fascinating thing. If you read this book, he says that white folks. So I said he's not a bigot, but he still got some interesting stuff in here. He says that white folks came about by a mixture of physical relationships with the people of the earth and fallen angels at the time. So white people are the product of basically.
So white people are Nephilim.
That's what it seems to. That's what he seems to be saying. But he talks about the land of Nod and all this, and if you read chapter 2, you'll see. But I mean, it's even there if you see it, and he explains it more in the chapter. The place where the fallen angels settled in the land of Nod or Isles, and the starting point of the Gentiles. But he explains it in the chapter, and he's saying fallen angels got with people, and that's where you get Gentiles from. And he equates Gentiles with whites. Chapter 3, the starting point of the black people. So notice it's the origin of people groups. And of course, this is in America, so people have black and white in the mind. It's not like he does everybody. And the name Jew, or the first and second Jews. And he goes into that. And then the rest of it's not really that along that line. Chapter 4 is about don't lay up too much treasure on earth. Chapter 5 is don't be doing tobacco and don't be doing snuff and drinking wine and all that. Chapter 6 is he's kind of against what he calls a sinner's prayer. He thinks that's backwards. Chapter 7, he seems to embrace what's called perfectionism, at least a mild form of it, perhaps. And chapter 8 is somewhat similar. Chapter 9, I mean, look at this: love God, love your neighbors. And he does refer to neighbors as everybody. He's not like limiting it to people who look like him or anything like that. Talks about Christian virtue. And then in chapter 11, he advocates foot washing. See in the bottom, Heather. Church of the Living God is the right church. So there's an exclusivism there. And all the members of said church ought to have their feet washed in the church. And perhaps that would be a good way to, get rid of racism or something. But like, it's a fascinating little thing that he's got there. And then that's not even the end of it. I'm not going to go through all of it. But I do want to show you just this. This is the preface. Look at this. It's the preface of the book. Freemason religion is the true mode of religion. All other modes of religion are not worth 1 cent. Got a diagram going on there. Don't ask me to explain it. And then he breaks it down some esoteric way. But this is the first book by a Hebrew Israelite. So it's got an open embrace of Freemasonry from the preface to the cover images. And it's not bigoted in the same way most Hebrew Israelites are of the day, although it's kind of strange to talk about people being the product of fallen angels. But they got to come from somewhere, right? I guess. And then you have the fact that it's published by a Jewish person. So there's some interesting things there. Now, this isn't done to no one thinks this is going to destroy Hebrew Israelism. And the point is, the religion of Hebrew Israelism, it has a birthday. It started somewhere. These guys want to act like it goes all the way back to Jacob or something. No, it started in America. It's like Mormonism. It's a very American religion. It's a restorationist movement. and you can study it and you can find out what was going on in the society and the culture. And a lot, to be honest, you can kind of explain Hebrew Israelism just from the cultural surrounding what was going on. Tomorrow, I'm bringing out the second oldest book published by Hebrew Israelite that, again, no one has talked about. This one seems even less known than the Christian book. Like, I've heard less scholars talk about the book I'm going to talk about. And it's going to be fascinating because I'm going to have some of the pioneers of Hebrew Israelism in print, what they believe. And the idea is just to show this thing had a starting point and there's influences. And it's not, and also, it's interesting, they're all Masons, all these guys, Cherry, Crowdy, Christian, and they all claim they had visions that God showed them they were Israelites. All three claim that. And Christian does. Crowdy's the most explicit. He's the most explicit, like he gives details to the vision. But Cherry and Christian also say the same thing. Although I think the truth is Crowdy and Cherry were influenced by Christian. That seems to be because they did a lot of similar things, including the naming of their church is almost identical to his. And it's clear he was first. So very interesting things there. Someone's asking a question.
Yeah, no, I think he was really just making a statement, or at least trying to make a correction, so to speak.
Well, actually, I don't agree with this at all. I don't even really agree. I don't want to say at all, but I don't even really agree with it. Yeah, when he says Hebrew Israelite is a nationality, what is a nationality? And it's very difficult to define a nationality without a nation. Now, you can make some kind of case, but it seems like for something to be a nationality, there would need to be a nation present. And so, what nation do these folks live in? I mean, the Nation of Islam, I guess, could say the same thing or something. This is, a lot of these groups notice they're the nation of something. It's a common thing. It's like, hey, this nation doesn't accept us. We'll build our own nation inside the nation. I think he probably means more like ethnicity, which is different from religion. I don't really think the word nationality works there. I think because ethnicity and nationality are not identical.
Right. I think a lot of people get nationality and ethnicity mixed up because I've been asked a few times what my nationality is, and I say, well, I was born in America, so or the United States. I say, but my ethnicity is African American, Black, whatever whatever idiom you comfortable with. But I think people do get nationality and ethnicity mixed up, and I'm not saying that this brother did. He may mean what he stated, but I think people do get those two mixed up, and they could be interchangeable, and I just don't realize it. I'm not the
nation. I think nation requires language, borders, and culture, and there is no unified Hebrew Israelite language, border, and culture that's distinct from anything else. All the things that are distinct are based upon their religion of Hebrew Israelism, but these guys don't recognize they're practicing a religion. So the other thing with the ethnic claim that they make, that I'm a Hebrew Israelite, they arrive there in a way that most people who know their nationality or ethnicity, more accurately, I'm using the term you used, they arrive there in a way that is highly abnormal, and I would even say suspect. So, how do you know who you are? There's a variety of factors that put together, and then you have some true, and then there can be confirming things or disconfirming things. For example, you can find out later you were adopted, so that would change perhaps your perception or something like that, right? Or you had a different father, or those kinds of things, right? Those things can happen. Or, for example, DNA tests can shake things up as well. And you may learn you're the descendant of, say, crypto Jews, which are, these conversos, which are forced conversions that happen in Europe, especially in Spain, and find out now you live in Mexico, and actually your ancestors weren't actually originally Roman Catholics until the Inquisition. And now you look at DNA and say, well, this looks Semitic, and you go back. This has happened. This has happened, by the way, what I'm talking about. So there's disconfirming or confirming things, right? Because every truth claim has to be falsifiable, or it's something else besides a truth claim. If it's non-falsifiable, then you can't show it's true either. So I think that's important for people to understand, because Hebrew Israelites do not arrive at their perceived ethnicity by any standard means, and the way they do it is by a religious means. That's why it is a religion proper, regardless of if they want to accept that or not.
Yeah, because I was told, me and my brother, Captain K, as I affectionately call him, but Captain 10,000, the Gal Gabor of ISUPK, under Commanding General Yohanan. He and I had a debate, are we Africans or Israelites, a while back. And one of the things we were going to talk about was DNA. But in my opinion, I didn't think my brother had a really good grasp on DNA. He ended up doing a pretty good presentation on it, actually. But I didn't even get prepared, because going into it, I didn't feel like it was necessary. But since the debate, I had posted my DNA results, and they just dismiss anything to do with DNA. Every Israelite brother that I've talked to just says that means nothing. It's fake. It's this. It's that. And I'm like, how do you arrive at DNA is fake? And so to me, it just seemed like anything that goes against what they believe about themselves is dismissed outright. And but my brother, nobody just jumped on. Peace, bro.
Beautiful.
Unmute yourself.
Peace. What's up with it, DMG? What's good about that?
Good to see you.
Good to see you, bro. I know you got me in a lot of trouble since the last time you've been here.
I tell people, it's funny you say that. I try to tell people, like, if they're going to come on the show with me or something like that, I say, hey, you may receive negative blowback after this. I said, I'll receive negative blowback, but I'm okay with that. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Sometimes I try to warn people a little bit to say, you're going to get X, Y, Z. If it's and it's all predictable, right? If you're a black female, you're a bed wench. If you're a black male, I'm not going to say what they're going to say, but they're going to say certain things.
Yeah, they call me a coon. But on this channel, ever since you left last time, I done got the title, the white man lover. I accept it, man.
Even I tease him about that. I love white people. I tease him about it, but yeah, he can handle it. He built for it, so it's all good.
Yeah. Let's get back into it, man. I didn't want to disrupt what you were flowing about and what you had going on. I just wanted to say peace to y'all and what's good with it.
Well, that's all right. Well, I mean, it's funny you say that, like the white man lover, right? It's fascinating because when you talk about the conscious community, they have a point when they tell Hebrew Israelites, why are you denying African heritage? Right. I think the conscious community has a perfectly good point. Now, some of the conscious community, present company, I don't know, excluded or just all due respect, wants to put everything or a lot of eggs into the Egypt basket, which I guess the way you do it is to talk about broad, like maybe Jabari, African spiritualities. But it's interesting, they usually choose one out of all of them frequently. Okay. But nonetheless, at least it's on the continent. My goodness. So you got these guys, and someone's going to say, oh, but you don't know the tectonic plate underneath stretches to Israel. They're going to do something like that. But I mean, it's a denial of every. So it's like, and then in the conscious community, a little smoke for them. It seems like a lot of the people that set things off for the conscious community, and you trace it back, and I'm not as good as this as others, so I'm not trying to, but it seems like some of the scholars they rely upon were white guys.
No, but vocab, that's even today though, because here's my issue with some people, and because you gotta pick a way to be to me, and it's like, on one hand, I heard quote unquote conscious brothers and sisters tell my Christian brothers and sisters that this is the white man's religion. And then they turn around and use white scholars. So what
as Richard Carrier has so forcefully stated.
There you go.
So
have you read Massey's work on the subject?
like you be making, I got a big head and I don't want it to explode because there's gonna be brains everywhere. And I don't want to have to be the person that clean up that mess. But my head is gonna explode. Because if you're worried about something being white, the people you're relying on to debunk this belief that you say is white are white.
Yeah. Or they run the atheism.
So
no, that ain't coming out of it.
Let's do it, mate. To me, let's talk about the information and leave it at that. Because when we start getting into it, it ain't no way around.
Let's talk about the information, not the pigmentation, so we can get to the proper destination. Ha!
I got two MCs on here, so I expect y'all to do a freestyle at the end of the show. So,
but yeah, if we say, look, what we're trying to do is arrive at truth, then I think most people involved in this understand sort of the concept of what we might call voices, or the importance of practical and lived experience. So, there's certain people that can't speak to certain things or about certain things because they don't have the experience. And there's levels of that, right? Like I have friends who kind of grew up like the Fresh Prince, but they still are going to have different experiences than me. But then I grew up different. So then there's these levels, right? And you just don't know by looking at some, but that's true. But then that's not all there is. There's facts and information. At the end of the day, there's writing on walls, and there's languages, and there's pieces of paper, and there's statues. You know what I'm saying? There's real stuff at the end of the day. And we got to deal with that. Like the other day, I was listening to some One West Hebrew Israelites who were Chicano, right? And they turned to Chronicles, right? And in Chronicles, it says, now the sons of Issachar knew the time and seasons and what Israel ought to do, which practical application, because I've heard that scripture for years, practical application, Christians usually will say, this is a verse that shows there wasn't good leadership in Israel, but you see some of the sons of Issachar were aware of what's going on and had wisdom about it. And therefore, as Christians, we should understand our context and proceed with wisdom like they did in their situation, right? The Hebrew Israelites in this video, the Chicano brothers, they said, now look, right here's the Mayan calendar. And it says that the sons of Issachar knew the times and seasons. Mexicans are the sons of Issachar. And if you look at the Mayan calendar, it could predict the phases of the moon, and also predicted the end of Esau's kingdom, because 2012 is when population demographics started shifting away from Esau having dominance. So they literally went to the Mayan calendar as evidence for this verse about the sons of Issachar who knew the times and seasons. But you got to stop and think for a second. Where are examples of the Mayan calendar found, right? South and Central America, right? They're not found in Israel. And what are the dates on when were the, I don't know. This is a question I'd look into. Say you're pointing to a stone object or something. When does that come about? You've got to look, was it before or after this verse is written or referring to? There's like all these questions. Where are the Mayan calendars somewhere in the land of Israel, for example? Because also they believe that Issachar arrived in the New World, so-called New World, at a certain time, because they weren't descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, but they got here another way. Most of them believe through Solomon's Navy. Solomon's Navy got stuck. This is what a lot of them teach, right? Well, if you look at that, that's a problem, because then you have to say, well, when was this calendar? And then the Solomon's Navy is problematic too, because the brother went on to say in the video, these Chicano Hebrew Israelites, he went on to say, the reason we're lighter is because we were raped by Assyrian conquerors. And so if you look at our skin tone, it looks the same as modern day Iraqis, but we're still Israelites. So this man really is saying, and this is a One West claim. This is what One West say about Issachar, because Issachar is becoming more important like I live in Phoenix, Southwest, very important. It's going to become more important on the Hebrew Israelite calendar because it's such an important part of the country. Like there's whole parts of Philly now, Chicano. That didn't used to be like that. Where I'm from, Columbus, whole west side. It's almost all like it wasn't like that when I grew up. You see, so it's an important demographic, this Issachar stuff for the one Westers, right? So if you are lighter because you were raped by Assyrians, the problem with that is the Assyrian invasion of Israel happened after Solomon's navy was making excursions, because Solomon was during the unified kingdom era, and the Assyrian invasion is like 701. So it's like 200 some years. Like, you got the people looking a certain way by Assyrians, but by your thesis, they were already over here in America.
I mean,
you
can kill
problems.
Hey.
No, but now if you are who your father is, as how they teach it, that kills all that, then, right? You Assyrian, then.
Well, you know what? He'll sometimes, see, that's another problem. But these guys just say stuff, and if you're searching for identity, I guess it sounds good.
You remember when me and Cap had our debate? One of my things is this. So we know that, I forget what was the percentage. I can't even remember. I had to go back in my notes, but it was like, what was it? 3 and 10 or 4 and 10,
somewhere around. I think it's 3.
3 and 10 female slaves were raped by the enslaver.
Yeah.
So and I think it was a higher percentage that resulted in offspring.
Right.
And so whenever this is brought up, they simply say not all of our female ancestors was raped. But we still talking about a high, 3 in 10, and then a higher percentage of those produced offspring. So how do you know how far, you know what I mean? Because your father may be black or Judah or whatever. But the further you go back, you may find that your great grandfather is Esau.
Just don't know, right?
So what are we talking about?
It only takes one cracker to break the chain.
See? Right.
You see what I'm saying? They have got to go all the way back to Jacob.
And ain't no way you can do it.
Jacob is about, I think, 2,000 years before the time of Christ.
Yeah.
And it's not just one white man who could break the chain. It's one Asian. It's one Hamite, as they would say.
Roman.
One Ishmaelite, one Elamite. That's what they call the Indians. Now, this is just for one Westers. People who don't go by the 12 tribe chart, this is irrelevant to them. Well, it's actually irrelevant to a certain extent. They've got to do the same thing with whatever they perceive, because they still think the same thing. They just don't include all those other nations. But all it takes is one non-Israelite male anywhere. Michael Black, I'm reading it. It says, Vocab alone is afraid to face Zion Lex or any so-called OT Israelite head-on, so he decides to low-key attack him. It's not low key. I've been openly disagreeing with Zion Lex. And on my last community post, I said I offered 2 debate topics to him. One is From Babylon to Timbuktu, a scholarly book, because Zion Lex has said it is and became very upset because he felt I was disrespecting his elder when I said it was a book that was not well sourced. So I would debate that. Or what is the purpose of Deuteronomy 28? Because Zion Lex has a whole book on Deuteronomy 28. Either of those things I'd be willing to debate him on. So I don't know why every Hebrew's like, they always think there's so much fear, like.
So
they don't want to smoke.
Lex actually said Babylon to Timbuktu was a scholarly book.
And we done jumped all over that already. We didn't already destroyed that. I think you were then on it. We didn't kill that.
Yeah, he was offended that I said it was not well sourced. Which I've heard a mild criticism when I was on with Dr. Heiser. I said it was not well sourced.
No, listen, man. I'm gonna say this and get mad. I forget what Thanos said in Endgame, but get resisted, be indifferent to whatever he said. Listen, man. Babylon to Timbuktu is historically historical fiction.
It's trash.
Like I can't, man. Stop, man. So if you come in the North,
before we met Captain K,
right.
Before Captain K came on here, we had another Hebrew brother, and remember he just kept on telling us Timbuktu, and man, that's trash.
All I'm saying is, if you come into North Africa, and then you migrate all the way across to West Africa, okay, no problem. But you settle in West Africa, and you go. They say 70 A.D. I think is what the book said. And you there into the slave trade. So if you,
Adrian, stop.
You there until the slave trade, which started in what was that 16 something? The number is escaping me right now. I think, matter of fact, it started in the late 1400s, and then America got in the game later on. So if that's the case, you was in West Africa for what, 1,500 years or something like that, and you didn't. None of your women were touched by African men. You didn't touch African women.
And no way.
Like you kept the laws, statutes, and commandments. Man, this is fiction.
Yeah, check this out. What's part of the rationale for why other nations were allowed to scoop them up? They did not keep the law, statutes, commandments, right? So if they're not keeping the laws and statutes and commandments, guess what they're doing? Guess what? In real life, historically, what did Israel do whenever Israel went off? What's one of the things she did? Got with the other nations' women. Yeah. So by their own reckoning, they're like, well, we're the Israelites, we're in this situation. But from 70 AD to the 16th century, we, all the guys. And then it's funny, talk about DNA. Sometimes I'll say, okay, what is Hebrew Israelite DNA? If it's one of the guys who's the non-chart person, they'll say E1B1A. But E1B1A is only about 70% of Black Americans. So they don't assume it's 7 out of 10 when they're talked to. You know what I'm saying? They don't act that way. And then if you're a one Wester, if you can't really deal with DNA because you're putting people of different haplogroups all smashed together, radically different haplogroups, like the Native Americans with, it's just it's a wild thing. But yeah, so those are a couple of things that, we could go with. I think would be interesting. Look, this is Windsor, another one of his books, The Valley of the Dry Bones. It's just like he'll say stuff and it's like central to his thesis, but it's like, hey, we need some evidence for this. Page 109. As always, marching armies create a refugee problem. Consequently, over a period of 700 years, hundreds of thousands of Israelites fled to the bordering African state of Egypt. And by the year 1 AD, there were more than 1 million Hebrew Israelites in the 3 African countries of Libya, Egypt, and Ethiopia combined, with minor penetrations in the Sahara and other parts of West Africa. You've got to tell us how you know this. You there's all kinds of stuff like that. And that's right before you brought the 7 AD. That was right before that. The Romans put a complete end to the Judean state in AD 70 with a great slaughter and taking them captivity. Guess what? That's not even right. The Bar Kokhba rebellion of 135. I don't know why that's not relevant, why he's not mentioning it. Bar Kokhba rebellion of 135 was a really big deal. And I've heard some people say, oh yeah, but that was all done by fake Israelites who had moved into our land by them. Well, Bar Kokhba was said to be the Messiah by some of the rabbis of his day. And you can't be the Messiah unless you are descended from David. So it appears that some people during Bar Kokhba's life thought he was a descendant of David. Otherwise, he wouldn't be a candidate to be the Messiah. This is 135. My point is, Windsor is putting it all in 70 AD and doesn't even mention 135 AD, which hypothetically could be helpful to his thesis. I don't know. I'm not saying he doesn't mention it anywhere, but he skips over it there because he talks about the state is at an end. But why was there another rebellion in 135 if there was nothing left at all, you know? But anyways, there's a lot of stuff like that. And it's just like, where do you get this information from? You know, you got to source this out. You got to tell this. You got to let us know. ISBK St. Louis. And when God chose the people, got with the white women in Africa, when we were punished by our God. Okay. ISBK St. Louis. That's what we're asking about. How do you know out of Hebrew Israelites who you say are, if they're punished for breaking the commandments, right? Wouldn't one of the commandments be that they got with people of other nations, according to your reckoning? If that's the case and they're coming over to America, how do you know one of their ancestors is not a man from another nation? Because you're saying that's what was happening. Because remember, you're experiencing the transatlantic slave trade, according to you, as a punishment from God for disobeying him. One of those things that would have been a form of disobedience would getting with people of other nations. So how would you know if any given person, no one in their family tree? Because you would have to act as if everyone who is over here, their ancestors all the way back, they never violated that particular command. Not just going back to 70 AD, but going all the way back to Jacob. That's why really I appreciate Hebrew Israelites who are a little more honest and they say, look, really, it's something that you know because God tells you. And you can tell by people's vibrations or spirits. At least that's more honest than trying to act like there's evidence that you can demonstrate that you know certainly.
That's just powerful. I mean, it just kills me too when it comes to the black man and the white man and all this and that, right? And who's lying and not telling the truth and stuff like that, right? To me, it's like, don't everybody agree that 1 + 1 = 2? Don't matter if you're black, white, Chinese, Mexican, or whatever, right? So when they come at people and say, well, just because this person white, they lying, or this person is another race, they lying, or they don't know the truth, or they don't have the truth, I just really can't understand why they put out that type of notion. And then when it comes to what you do, Vocab, like, you know, you research, like you did with the book that you pulled up and found the first literature on Hebrew Israelism. Half of those people probably have never even heard of that book, heard of that person, don't know where it come from or any of that. And knowing that you pretty much is coming from a genuine place, and then for them to come out there and put out lies like what you just said and try to add it up, it just don't make sense, bro. It just don't make sense. It's too much. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, really agreed. I mean, and, you know, ISBK St. Louis says it's unlawful to marry the other nations of people. So we understand that you believe that. But remember, you just said that when we violated those commands, we were punished. So if you're punished for violating commands of God, one of which you think is marrying other nations of people, then that would mean while on the continent, people were violating the commands of God, including getting with members of other nations. So then how do you know just because your ancestors came over forcibly, then therefore you have a pure bloodline, when the whole reason you're saying this happened was because of violation of commands? You don't see the radical disconnect in your thesis. Not only that, let's just go there. Since it's ISBK, you know, this is an Old Testament guy. This is not like Zion Lex. This is one Wester. You know, everyone knows that a mother would have a father or a son out somewhere and they would never come home. We know things like that happened. Mm-hmm. We know that if families did come, they took great pains to separate them, usually based upon what they would understand to be language, or almost even you can just do it simpler. Where did we get this guy from? Where did we get this gal from? Split them up, right? What's my point by saying that? So if let's take the example from Roots. You know, I know there's fictional elements in there, but there's a lot of things that are real about that. The mother was left, right? He was taken. The son, you know, Kunt Kinte. So he would be a Hebrew Israelite. I guess his mother's not. I guess his father's not. I guess his cousins and uncles, unless they came, they're not. So how can you say we know Africans aren't Hebrews, but the father of the son is on the continent while the son is on a boat? So how do you know the father's not an Israelite and the son is? And it's who your father is, right, guys?
And then on top of that, how can you be mad? How they say we identify ourselves based off the curses of Deuteronomy 28 and 68. If y'all are the ones that put yourself in that position to get punished, how y'all mad at somebody else? Y'all did that. Y'all broke those commands, so-called, and got put in that position. How you blaming somebody else for what y'all did? That don't make sense either. You know?
Michael Black says the main sin of Israel is going after their gods like the son of Mary. Repent, ISUPK, that's vocabs, and the Pope's idol god.
The Pope.
Yeah.
Well, you don't follow the Pope, do you?
No, I'm Reformed. I'm the opposite.
I already know. That was a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
I already know. Nobody following the Pope over here.
You know what's funny about that, though? If I'd say, no, I'm a Protestant, and they usually say, well, what's that mean? And I'll say a little something about the Protestant Reformation, what it means, da-da-da-da. And they'll say, well, yeah, but they still broke off from the Roman Catholic Church then, right? I don't say, okay, then by that logic, you're Roman Catholic. What do you mean? Well, you guys broke off from the Baptists. So I guess, that's different. Well, how is it okay that what's good for the goose is good for the gander? If we're Catholics, even though we specifically left, our religious forebears specifically left the Roman Catholic Church, oftentimes the cause of, great suffering, and we're still Roman Catholics and practicing Roman Christianity, then how are you not doing the same when you broke off from Protestant branches?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, right. And a lot of people too. I mean, we know Catholic just means universal, but some of those people don't understand either. What was going on in Asia. What was going on in other parts of the world. Everybody wasn't under, Roman Catholicism, and then a lot of people don't understand it's called Roman Catholicism, not just Catholics itself. You know what I'm saying? That's two different.
For example, Ethiopian Christianity.
There we go.
History, theology, practice. They were the Ethiopian church was never under the Pope. In fact, Martin Luther met a man named Michael the Deacon.
No, don't go it. No, vocab. Don't even do it. I got a debate supposed to be coming up, and I'm going into that. Yeah, don't even touch that part right there. I got you.
I don't want to steal your thunder.
Yeah, he actually has a debate, and I think you'll find this topic interesting. I thought I sent it to you, but I might not have. Is the Black church an extension of the European church, and is Christianity part and parcel to white supremacy?
And I know he's going to try to bring up Martin Luther and the theses and all that, but he don't know what you were just about to speak on. He has no clue that ever happened with Martin Luther. No clue, bro. So I'm using that in my debate coming up.
Well, there's some other stuff that's kind of interesting. You can show them. Calvin, all the way from Geneva, sent missionaries to South America, for example. And anyway.
It's a big blow.
Let me ask both of y'all a question, because I got my man Cap 10K up on the screen, ISUPK St. Louis. Shout out to my brother. When ISUPK, particularly when my brother Cap do it, they put all Christians in the same category. Right. In other words, if let's say the Southside Church, that pastor is found to be a pedophile and a thief. Well, the Northside Church is automatically indicted and included into the actions of the Southside Church, even though this is a totally separate church and a totally separate pastor, individual, congregation, etc. But they lump them into the same category. Now, if that's flipped around to Hebrew Israelites or to Israelites, ISUPK will tell you they are not affiliated with any other Israelite group, which I honestly respect.
I do. Yeah, I do.
But what I find hilarious is that every church is associated with each other. What's y'all opinion on that particular thing as it comes from ISUPK in particular?
I would say real quickly that it goes without saying, man. When we go stand in front of God, nobody is going to go stand in front of God for what somebody else did. We're going to be treated as individuals, and you don't have to put a clause on that to say, well, hey, man, I ain't that person over there. That should be automatically known. That's just common sense. It ain't that deep, bro. It ain't rocket science. If Eddie Long over here stealing money, I ain't never been to Eddie Long church. I don't know Eddie Long outside of what goes on through the media. You know, I got my own pastor. Even outside of my pastor, I got myself. I saw a video from Captain earlier standing on the street corner, and one dude said every Christian that he met was a liar or a pedophile or this or that. I ain't never had sex with no kids. He said they all criminals, go to jail. I ain't never been locked up. I ain't never been to prison or no stuff like that. He said they all cheaters and all that. I've been my wife for 20 years. Straight, solo, dolo, no cheating, no nothing. So I just feel like when they come at us like that.
Shout out to my little sis.
Shout out, baby. I just feel like when they come at us like that, they're just lying. How can they claim to believe in God, but they say stuff like that? When they say stuff like that, that makes you a liar. So how can you claim to be following the commandments of God and you're flat out lying? It's just a lie, bro. Go ahead, bro.
Just a convenient kind of form of argumentation for them, but they're committing at least two fallacies there. One is the guilt by association fallacy, and you can look these up. So I got it in front of me, but that's where you try to connect an opponent to a demonized group of people or a bad person in order to discredit the argument. So they're just guilty by being similar to the bad group, so you shouldn't listen to them. For example, we cannot eat this sandwich because Dr. Corrupt also likes this kind of sandwich. So that's one error. The other one is the fallacy of what's called hasty generalization, sometimes called a converse accident, faulty generalization, biased generalization, jumping to a conclusion, or a neglect of qualifications. And that's where you might basically you don't have sufficient evidence or sufficiently unbiased evidence, and then you still make a conclusion about it, such as all people who wear bike helmets when they ride bikes must be bad riders, something like that. Those are fallacies, but it's convenient for them. And even challenging this claim, I see on the screen ISUPK St. Louis, we are not affiliated with any other Hebrew Israelite group on the planet Earth. Let me just go ahead and challenge that, because that's not correct. Let me explain how that.
Vocab talk about the One West all the time. Wasn't Generation Hunter and the other people before they broke off, wasn't they all together? Like, come on, man. Like, come on, bro. This is elementary, man.
Exactly. So One West, 125th.
K says the ISUPK, not only him, but every ISUPK member I've ever heard or talked to says they are not affiliated with any other Israelite group. So I mean, I'm just saying. I don't know.
I give them that respect, though. Now, watch it. How many times have I gave him that respect and be like, okay, I'm not gonna bring up ICIU when I'm talking to you. The thing is, it's dishonesty on his end, because if you're claiming that you want that distinction from other groups, then you should also give other people that same distinction if you're going to be fair and if you're going to be honest. To sit up there and say that because you are a Christian, this other so-called Christian, or I go as far as to say this. Let's say that person was a Christian.
Hold it down. I'll be right back.
Okay, because God is a forgiving God, and I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that Christians are perfect. Nobody is perfect. Everybody is a filthy rag. So somebody can do something wrong. They can repent for it and still be in good graces with God. So for them to be ISUPK and claiming that they're not affiliated with nobody else, while at the same time trying to act as if they perfect, y'all have sin too. You can't sit up here and tell me that nobody in ISUPK doesn't sin, because if you was to say that, then you're making the Bible a lie. The Bible says if a person says that they have no sin, they are a liar. So I don't care if you want to isolate yourself from other Hebrew groups and be ISUPK. Y'all got fault too, you know?
Yeah, and they are affiliated. So in 1919,
break that down, Vocab.
a group called the Commandment Keepers was in Harlem, and it was essentially practiced Black Judaism there. And about 50 years later or so, a number of people left. Ariyah and his father. You got Yaquab and Mashah and whatever, and they start a small school. And the school becomes 1 West 125th as far as the address, but changed the name several times. One was the Israeli School of Torah, an Israeli Church of Universal Practical Knowledge, a couple names like that. And then that group changed its name later on under different leadership, specifically the leadership of Tazadakia, to the Israelite Church of God in Jesus Christ, with Ariyah, the man who taught at 1 West, was the main teacher, still there. And Yohana was under, my understanding, Yohana was under Tazadakia for a little bit. And so they were literally right there with him. Now, if I'm wrong, correct me on that, as far as that situation. Was he? We know he was there at the Israeli Church of Universal Practical Knowledge at 1 West 125th Street. So that's at least 2 affiliations, depending on how you count it, if you want to count the ICGJC as a third group. But, there's direct affiliation. So he was taught by others. He was trained by others, and it's different groups. And then he went, and apparently no one had trademarked the name Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. So then he was able to start up his thing. And the fact is that in the line of succession, he was not the highest ranking member, and nobody at the original school ever appointed him to be in charge when they passed away or handed off the baton. Yohana will tell a different story, but the facts I've seen show that not to be the case. Tahar had higher rank than Yohana. It's a fact. And Ariyah clearly co-signed Tazadakia. So where does Yohana's authority to become the leader of the real school come from? It doesn't. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'm looking. Everything I said was right, but let me revamp one thing, because someone's going to say, "Oh, that wasn't right." So Yohana was never technically. Well, he was. See, so I'm catching up on my notes right now. So the way it works is this. So I was right. Yohana stayed with the ICUPK during the House of David split. So let me break this down. Some people, including Tahar and Nathaniel, I believe, they went with Mashah to House of David. And that's a big deal, because everybody at the school was forced to swear allegiance to King David, who was Mashah. They taught that King David reincarnated was Mashah. That's why his group was called House of David. So Yohana did not go with House of David, okay? He stayed with the ICUPK, and he was still with the ICUPK when Tazadakia converted it into the ICGJC. He got kicked out around 2003. And the reason stated is that he bucked up against one of the new doctrines that ICGJC brought out, which was the virgin birth doctrine, that Christ in some way is Yahweh doctrine, and according to the ICGJC, for stealing. Now, that's what they said. I'm just telling you the reports. He may agree with 2 out of the 3 of those. So here's my point, though, that if you want to count groups that you broke off from as being affiliated with, then you're affiliated with the Commandment Keepers, who deny a lot of important things about Jesus. I know you don't call them that name, whatever. And you're affiliated with the group after that, the ICUPK, and even the ICGJC, which is because they changed their name, and Yohana was still there when they changed their name. Yeah. So that's very significant. So the point is, if we're going to use that kind of argumentation, what am I absolutely wrong about? ISUPK St. Louis, I'm just the information I'm giving you is from Hebrew Israelites. And there seems to be some evidence to it. Tell me specifically which thing I was wrong about. The only thing I could see you say wrong about is about the stealing part, and I'll say, okay, Tazadakia left the ISUPK and went and started. That's not true. What are you talking about? If that's true, then why is Ariyah with Tazadakia? What do you mean it's a different group? You just don't understand. See, this is what's difficult. These groups have been taught a false version of their own history. It's usually a version that favors their leader. So he may really believe what he's saying. So I'm not going to do what they do to me. I am not calling him a liar at all. I do think Johanna lied to him, though. Johanna has went around saying he was chosen in the highest ranking. Those are demonstrably false by people who were there at the time. So it sounds like he's believing. What do you mean he was never in any of those groups?
He was never in any of them.
Okay, look, you got to explain the timeline like I did, because I explained it very clearly. I explained it generally, and then once I got into my notes, I explained it more specifically. I explained the timeline very specifically. You're just counteracting what I'm saying, but you're not giving any kind of timeline or information. I don't think you really know the history. I'm not saying I was there, but I have made great pains and great effort to go about talking to members, current, ex-members, read everything I can get my hands on, including old literature by the school, watch old videos, those old public access videos, and put it together, taking into account what all the groups say and try to find out what the truth actually is. And what you're saying, you're wrong about everything. Okay, well, you're just a propagandist. You have bought into a lie and you're repeating it. Johanna has to make you believe that so you can respect his authority. What he should have done is just been honest and said something like this. The leaders went off. I was not the highest ranking. I do not have they did not hand me the baton. I had to leave because they had went off and we had to start this over according to the true vision. Similar to what Farrakhan did with the Nation of Islam when he feels that Elijah Muhammad's son went off. You should be honest and say, I'm trying to make this a continuation. What do you mean Ariel left? He's under Tazadakia. Sorry, okay.
7-day Adventists with the Millerite group. It's the same thing. Something happened, they go left, and they just come up with something different. That's all that is.
Let me make sure I'm clear on what's being said. So you saying that Commanding General Johanna was not chosen to lead the school. You saying that because all of these other people left, he was sort of the last man standing?
No, that's that's much closer to what they say.
Okay.
What you just said is what UPK says about what happened. Okay. So look, let me see if we can draw this. I don't know. I might not get this right, drawing it out like this.
Because I kind of took off for a minute and I just abbreviated as much as you can, and then we're going.
Here's ISUPK.
Okay.
Because the group was not called ISUPK, it's called the Israeli Church of Universal Practical Knowledge. Okay?
Yeah.
Then, out of that, a major split. Now, there's other splits that happened. I'm just going to do one for now. The HOD came about, House of David. So what happens is there was a number of disagreements, and Mashah, one of the 7 heads, left out of the ICUPK. And it was a big deal because he no longer had the property. He didn't have the building. Mashah didn't have the building. That was Ariyah that had the building with the other guys. But some of the 7 heads ended up leaving with Mashah because, remember, everyone at the school had been forced to swear that Mashah was King David reincarnated. So they had to give him allegiance as David reincarnated. So some people felt like you need to go with King David. That's who we made our allegiance to as the king. And Ariyah had said he was David reincarnated in the flesh. So we need to go with him. This is why the school was called House of David, because Mashah was said to be David reincarnated. So Tahar and Nathaniel were 2 significant people who were there. However, with the ICUPK, I'm going to show you this here, who stayed. Okay?
From IUIC?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was later on. And Nathaniel he's highly evolved this whole thing. He doesn't teach polygamy. Actually, he teaches it in the future, though. A lot of people don't know that about Nathaniel. He teaches it. It's going to be on in the future. He doesn't use Lashawan Kodash. He uses somewhat of a racial slur. He calls it Hebonics. Nathaniel calls Lashawan Kodash Ebonics. So Ariyah stayed, okay. Tazadakia stayed, okay. And Johanna stayed, okay. This is not everybody, but I'm just showing you some people. They stayed with the ICUPK. See that?
Okay.
So ICPK HODs over here, they left. That's who left the ICUPK. Okay. Who's still in it? Johanna, Ariyah, Tazadakia. Okay. They're still there. Now watch what happens. At some point, and for some reason, it has never been fully explained. Only Yahweh knows. Tazadakia, the former cameraman, wrestled away control from Ariyah. It is unclear how he managed to do this. He did so and even changed the name of the school and brought in significant doctrinal changes. Okay? So here's what happened. The ICUPK becomes the ICGJC. It's the same school. Nothing changed. I believe the address was still the same, if I'm not mistaken, at that time. Right.
I got the list.
House of David went around the corner. They went around the corner. I think they went to 126, if I'm not mistaken, right? But ICUPK changes an ICGJC, and look who's there with it. Ariyah, Tazadakia, Johanna. Except now the difference is Tazadakia is on top. See, he's on top of Ariyah. You see what I'm saying? So that was so now it's not Ariyah on top, it's Tazadakia on top, okay? Johanna stayed with the group during this change. So ICUPK is simply the old name for the ICGJC. Records prove this. All this stuff was public. These guys had a very public.
I got the list too. Yeah, I got the web list where it started from, and then which group time. I got the list. Yeah.
So the modern ISUPK is literally believing a fairy tale invented in Johanna's mind to give him authority. And I think the man I'm talking to, down there, I think he really believes it.
That's Captain 10K.
Yeah, he's simply wrong because I don't think he's really looked into the issue in great detail. Now, let me show you the next thing that happened, and I'll be done with this little stuff. 2003, that is when Johanna left or was kicked out. I mean, ISUPK says he left, but the truth is that he was kicked out. He was removed. Okay. And over here, ICGJC is right here. And then what happens in 2003, Johanna leaves. And what's he do? He picks up one of the old names because it had not been copyrighted and restarts the ISUPK. Although prior to that, it was Israeli Church of Universal Practical Knowledge. And I know that for a fact because not only did I discover this first book, but with the help of others, we discovered two books, one from 1950 and one from 1980. One written by Abba Bivens himself. I did a whole show on it. The other one in 1980, written by the Seven Heads. And if someone wants to, in a second, I'll show the cover screen. Now, the importance of this is what it shows, and that's just a little simple breakdown off the top of the head, is that these guys, leaders, are willing to lie to them to maintain power. Number one. Number two, a lot of these guys are not doing a very good job of critical thinking and inspecting what their leaders say. And it's leading them into destruction, straight up. Number three is there's a crazy history with these groups. They multiply quicker than rabbits. And the fact is that this is just a small smattering of all the splits and factions. It's nonstop. And this is important. Shire Allah, I believe that's the gentleman who was in the Montel Williams show. If you've ever seen that, when he had him on with some white racists and they were like dressed up like Nazis, and he had red on and he was shaking the thing. I think it was Shire Allah who said, and he's not the only one, but he confirms that Tahar outranked Johanna. In fact, and many people have said this, Tahar was the highest ranked member of the ICUPK under the Seven Heads. So here's the Seven Heads, right? Tahar was right under them in rank. Because remember, these guys gave out rank as kind of like treats for doing good stuff and stuff like that, right? Rank up, rank up, rank up. And in Tahar, it really is like that, right? Tahar, he left with Mashah. So the highest ranking member under the seven heads left. And then what happens is it appears Johanna wasn't fully on board with the new doctrine. And what other members said is that he was financially exploiting the men under him, specifically the men working the oil tables. Yeah, that plus he didn't like the doctrinal innovations that Tazadakia was bringing up. That's when they kind of just said, well, hey, what's going on here with the tables? Kind of like he was pushing back on some of the doctrinal changes. Specifically, Tazadakia, with Ariyat there, started teaching a number of things. One is he's the comforter, Holy Spirit, but I think that was a little bit later. But before that, he taught the virgin conception, and he started teaching that in some way Yahweh Shai was Yahweh, that in some way Jesus was to be identified with Yahweh, which seems to almost say, well, wait, are we teaching the deity of Christ here now? Because they had never really taught the deity of Christ in a proper way. So it's kind of weird. Tazadakia actually started taking small steps closer to orthodoxy, because the virgin conception is part of orthodoxy, and so is the deity of Christ. Now, it's not like he got all the way there, especially when you say I'm the Holy Spirit, but that's a fact, and this is confirmed through multiple sources. So they're believing something else, and if someone's like, why do you care about this? I care about truth, and I care about showing that this thing was not something that Nat Turner was running around teaching, like they try to say. This is something invented by men in the late 19th century, and then the specific iteration that the One Westers follow really started seeing the light of day in 1969. And there has been changes, especially with the innovations made by the different groups. And the innovations made by ISUPK are no exception. I think Johanna would have been much better off saying, yes, ICGJC was the proper continuation of ICUPK in a very technical, formal sense. Ariyah was there. Tazadakia had taken leadership. That's a fact. Mashahad left. I did not go with him. But here I am, and I needed to retain the spirit of what was going on. He could have still done this whole last man standing thing, and so I had to restart this thing, and that's why it has the name it does now. But this thing about I was the most ranking member, or implying someone was handing them the reins, all that kind of stuff, or that everyone left while he stayed, it's just hogwash. It's not true.
So I gotta give. First, we're gonna open it up for questions, and I'm gonna put the link in the chat. But before I do that, the first person I'm gonna have come on is my brother Cap 10K, because of what's being said about Commander General Johanna. I know he gonna want to come in and defend his leader and his school. So he'll be the first person up when we open it up. Michael Black, I see you too. I'll put it in the chat, and you can come in once Captain K in, because we're taking one person at a time. I don't want it to get cluttered and people talking at the same time. There will be no cursing. So, because I said this on another show, we got kids watching now, kids of friends of the show, people who come on the show, etc. So, elderly people, I'm trying to keep it respectful. There will be no cursing. If you got to curse, just don't even hit the link, because once you do, I'm going to have to kick you out. It ain't got nothing to do with Vocab. He don't care. He said it to me before we came on. I said this on the previous show. Nobody can verify. You can go back and look at it. I have children watching the show. I have elderly people watching the show. Say whatever you got to say. Just don't curse. Just and be as heated as you want to be at whoever you want to be heated at. Just don't curse and don't be disrespectful with people, family. I don't care if it's Vocab. I don't care if it's nobody. And if it's me, I'm probably going to curse you out and tell you I got a plane ticket for you and we can see each other. So be respectful. So that's all I'm saying. When I put that link in there, be respectful. That's all. But with that said, Vocab, let me move to the conscious community, because we talked about Hebrew Israelites for a minute. We had a few debates in the conscious community. Our brother Tahuti, my brother Chris Harris, and I'm trying to think. Did you have one more? You had like a dialogue with brother Reggie and brother Jabari, I think, a while back.
And somebody else. I don't know.
Yeah. You was making the rounds on Sinetta Studios. So what's your takeaways from my community, the conscious community, and sort of the dichotomy between that community and the Hebrew Israelite community that you run into, and the similarities?
A little more, on a positive note, a little more objective or fair-minded than the average Hebrew Israelite. You will find people in the conscious community who say, well, okay, you made a good point, or that information does seem to be true, even if they don't agree with you and even if they don't like you. I'm not saying everyone in the conscious community is fair-minded.
Real quick, hold your thought. My brother Teddy pointed out you had a conversation with Unc the God Killer.
Yeah, that was I like that. He's a lot of fun. I like him especially. Yeah. That was. I actually like that. We want to do something else again, which hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
There's I noticed there are people in the conscious community who are a little more willing to kind of be like, okay, and I think there's a little bit more. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everybody, but there's a little bit more of a willingness to think independently than there is within most versions of Hebrew Israelism. So I appreciate that element. I appreciate that. And there's still notable strands, I think, of bigotry, sometimes soft, sometimes hard, but it's not usually as bad as it is with the Hebrew Israelites for the most part. And when I say Hebrew Israelites here, I mean the one Westers, because they're usually the ones on the show. There are other versions of Hebrew Israelites where it's not as bigoted. So I'm mainly talking about one Westers here. But it still can pop up. For example, when Tahuti was saying that I needed to provide a source that had to be basically of a certain color in regards to a certain thing, and people thought that was a winning argument. Yeah. It was utterly ridiculous, especially when he himself did not do the same thing in regards to his sources. I just thought that was garbage. And the fact that people would actually think he made a good point, because I read through some comments, you got him with that? I'm like, really? Yeah, you got him with that? So that did, there is some of that there, but everybody's not like that.
To me, that's just bias. I watched that show myself, and I saw the same comments that you most likely saw. Right. But you know what channel you was on, and when it comes to the audience on a certain channel.
Don't disrespecting the Godfather now. Don't do it.
Who's the Godfather? Sarnetta? He's the Godfather? Okay.
I know how I feel about Sarnetta, but anyway. I'm going to disrespect him, but dude.
Nah, I'm just messing with you. Go ahead.
I know. But no, it ain't even towards Sarnetta himself. It's just like me. If you come on my channel, it's mostly Christian, so they're going to be leaning towards the Christian side. So, but on the Sarnetta channel, of course, with the people that were in the audience, as pertaining to that video that you were saying, and I'm not saying that you was beating him up just because you was another Christian brother, just for the sake of argument. I really think that I know they call them the smartest chat room on YouTube. That is totally false, because a lot of them just don't get how to argue. And some of the stuff that you brought up earlier when it comes to logical fallacies and all that, they couldn't even list them off top of their head, let alone tell you the meaning of them. So, and when Tahuti did that and was like, well, hey, I'm not going to accept the source that you said. I need a source that looks like me, or can you show me a source from this particular one? They go back to what I said a while ago. 1 + 1 = 2 for everybody. I don't have to hear 1 + 1 = 2 from a black person. It could be a white man that told me, or the Chinese, or Mexican, or whatever. If it's true, it's true. The skin color don't matter,
Yeah, so that was interesting, but in some ways there's certain elements of the conscious community that are more challenging, because they branch out maybe into a lot more subjects a lot of times than Hebrew Israelites tend to go. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's Hebrew Israelites who cover all kinds of broad, diverse range of subjects, but a lot of times the conscious community more will be like branch out into more things, and like they might bring up a journal article. Like I think Unc, he was bringing up some different journal articles and stuff like that. I don't think it proved his point, but I thought it was, it's an interesting thing that he would do stuff like that and whatnot. And so Oh, so the 0 year. Yeah, man kept on talking about year 0. It goes 1 BC, 1 AD. And it's okay to make that mistake if you're a novice. But if you're saying you're like a master teacher out here and you think you're slaughtering people in debates and you're saying you know ancient history and you're using year 0, it shows you're fronting. You're way out of your depth because it's such a simple, like a simple basic thing you would know from reading ancient historians on the issues and things like that. You would know, if you're just starting out, I'm not trying to make people feel dumb, but I'm saying if you're positioning yourself like Tahuti, you just expose yourself, man. I mean, just saying. That was one example, but I like the conscious community folks. I feel like the issues seem to be a little less personal to them, so someone can get upset or whatever, and then we can calm down and be a little more cool. I'm not saying everybody, don't get me wrong, but I feel like there might be more hope for me to have friendships, say, with people in the conscious community than Hebrew Israelites. Not because on my end, but because like Jabari, he doesn't seem to take it personal. And when I see him, it feels like it's love. And I always appreciate dialoguing with him, Yeah. And there's other guys like that. Same thing with Unk. After our debate, he was like, yeah, hit me up. We'll do something again. Like Hebrew Israelite, it's hard for them not to take everything very personal. So, you're an agent, you're the devil. Let me talk about your kids. It's hard for them not to go there. Conscious community, by and large, doesn't seem like they're affected with some of that as much. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, when I first started watching your videos, I formed a particular opinion, and that's where I met brothers like Jerome Green, and that's how me and him started dialoguing in your chat room. But I still formed a particular opinion, even though I kept watching. I was like, man, this dude got an issue with black people. Like, he got a problem with what black people choose to believe. And for whatever reason, he feel like it's his job to correct us. But then I chop it up with you, and I'm like, okay, I gotta back up off of that. So it take talking to somebody and actually dialoguing with them and figuring out where it is they coming from on a realistic note, instead of and you may still have inherent ideas about who certain people are, but until you talk to them and start getting to know what their opinions are on certain matters, you can't really say for certain that you know where it is they coming from. And so a lot of people was like, why you got dude on your show? Well, if I'm a mention the dude on my show, why wouldn't I have him on my show? And that was always my thing. But it's like, on one hand, you good with me casting aspersions about a particular person, but then when it comes to talking to the person face to face and asking them what they think and what they believe, you don't want me to do it. So I thought that was interesting, like from the first time you came on. So yeah, even I had to back off of some things that I had built up. So I think once people actually open up dialogue and start talking to individuals, I don't care who it is, whatever your background is, and get an actual reading for themselves of that individual, you really just forming an opinion based off of nothing, because you haven't talked to that individual, unless it's a blatant thing about whether it's race, politics, or whatever. If it's blatant and they coming out and saying a particular thing that can't be denied, then that's one thing. But that wasn't the case with some of the ideas that I had started forming. So I appreciated you even taking the time to say, let me make sure I'm clear on some things with this individual, as opposed to just let me run with some things, because that you could have just said, hey, I don't care what dude think. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of where people in the conscious community coming from, versus when you challenge my Israelite brothers, this is what they basing their entire identity on. And so when you challenge it, it's automatically an offense. And it's not just you. If I do it, it's an offense. If nobody do it, it's an offense. So it comes from a particular place when it's an individual like yourself. So it's not so much personal that it is, I've discovered this thing about myself, and now why is he going out of his way to challenge it? What is his angle for trying to make me think otherwise when I sternly believe this about myself? What's in it for him to make me think otherwise? Is he a part of the agenda of those people who have stolen our identity? You see what I mean? So I think that's where it comes from with our Israelite brothers.
Yeah. And you can't change people's minds if they arrive at a place without a reason. It's difficult to use a reason to get them out of that place. And so sometimes that's a situation we might be looking at. But when people feel that way, I say, hey man, you don't have to, no one said you had to talk to me or listen to me, obviously. And so if people don't want me to be in a certain place, as far as invite on a platform or something like that, then okay, that's fine. Or no one's, forced to watch anything or anything like that. We know that. So I'm okay with all that. And there's other people to talk to. If they do want to talk to a Christian, I mean, you got the pastor who comes on, Sonetta frequently. I'm forgetting his name, but he does a great job debating. The one pastor, sometimes he wears the hoodie in his pit. Yeah, Pastor Bennett. I mean, she's great, and he's not the only one. So there's plenty of people. So I'm like, hey, that's totally fine. I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Now, out there on the street in the public, when they're harassing people, I will show up uninvited there because it's in public and they're harassing people. That's a little different. But as far as these other platforms and whatever, that's okay. But the Lord will decide when he wants to take me home or have me stop doing stuff. And until then, I don't really plan on going anywhere, but it's in the Lord's hands ultimately. And so there we are. So really at the end of the day, we got to deal with the arguments. And now some people just don't want to do that, right? So the man I was talking to that was giving a false history of what happened with ISUPK, he can go on believing that, but if he looks into what I'm saying, if he looks into it from an objective standpoint, he'll find out that what he believes is simply not true, because there's no way to prove it other than what comes out of the mouth of the man that he's following. He won't be able to do it. He will not be able to do it. And I think stuff like that matters, because some of these guys, honestly, they need to have some of their confidence that is placed in these leaders shaken up a little bit, because you got people out here saying Yohana is second only to Christ. Second only to Christ. That's a pretty big thing to say. I think you need to really make sure before you say something like that, what's going on. Yeah, I'll have a discussion with Zion Lex. I said I would. I'll have a discussion with Zion Lex. I named 2 topics. I don't know if he has any topics, and then we could have a place. I mean, these things are just things. Like, we talk to people, and people always talk about ending people's career. You just debate and go on to the next person, or, have another discussion. Like, it will just be another discussion between me and a Hebrew Israelite. Yeah, he has a different perspective, but I have debated Old Testament only Israelites. And yes, he knows some Hebrew. Now, his Hebrew's not flawless, as I showed on that show Friday. I showed Friday Zion Lex makes mistakes in the Hebrew. And when I have my Hebrew speaking friends there, they catch him on it. So, that's important to understand, but I would still talk to him nonetheless. And, although my view of him has changed a bit, let me tell you, he went after a guy who's like, kind of how I'm on your show. There was a guy who was a Jewish guy, and I was on his show, and they didn't like this guy for a variety of reasons. And the guy did say some stuff. I told him later. I said, "Hey man, don't say that. Don't say that." I told him, and he knows that. So I messaged him. I said, I was like, don't say this, don't say that. Da, da, da. If you're going to talk about these issues, you got to you gotta do better as far as that goes, right? And so that goes. But as far as the facts and information that this man brought out from the Hebrew, Zion Lex frankly showed to be mistake prone, and I don't think they like that. And so you know what Zion Lex did? He went and posted this man's job, his business, his business on his community page, on his YouTube page. I'm saying on Zion Lex's YouTube page, he made a community post showing where his business was. And then when one of Zion Lex's followers went and gave it a really bad review, accusing him of all this stuff, Zion Lex screenshot it and put "good job" to this person going after this man's business. So look, you could disagree with the man, say all kinds of things, or that he needs to be corrected about how he talks about certain issues. Okay. I did not know he was at that level of doing stuff like that. I thought that was like One West type stuff.
Nah,
but Zion Lex straight up did that. I mean, I think he took one of them down, but one of them is still up there. And I went on there and told him shame.
I'm gonna say this real quick. And when it comes to Zion Lex has displayed time and time again. I'm 45. I don't know how old the brother is. I don't even know if he's 40 years old, but
he is, because he says he's been teaching Hebrew 27 years, and a clip from a few years ago, and he said he was 41.
Okay.
By the way, that would make him start teaching Hebrew, I think, at the age of 14. So there's a little suspect, but go ahead.
So, he definitely embellishes. But here's my thing. The brother has shown time and time again that he has questionable morals. He disrespected an elder by the name of James Smalls, who
Wait, they did an interview together.
Yeah. The elder was very forgiving of the brother. I'm just not. So
this was before.
Yeah. Let me be clear. The elder is very forgiving, as elders tend to be. I'm a lot more forgiving of the youth than I am people my own age, because I feel people my age should know better. But he disrespected the man, and that's why him and Garfield have issues, because Garfield took exception to it. Shout out to the Dagger Squad. And so he disrespected Jabari and Jabari's house. In Jabari's house. Yeah, it's a video out there, bro. You can find this. And if
I didn't know that, but honestly, why would you do that? I get disagreeing with Jabari, but Jabari is he's not like that. He doesn't deserve that kind of treatment.
All they were doing was disagreeing on information, and this man talking about what he gonna do to the man in this man's home. His wife is upstairs. This is the kind of behavior this man displayed. And so the final straw was he told Sarnetta he was gonna have a debate with Captain Tazoriak. He ended up flaking. I think he's scared of Tazoriak. That's just what I think it is. I'm saying that. I think you scared of Tazoriak, Zion Lex. And so, but he talked a million miles of boo-boo, I'm not going to say the other word, to Sarnetta about how he was going to destroy Tazoriak. But when it came down to it, it was a friendly conversation. And Sarnetta was like, where all the energy you told me you was going to have? Like, you know how Sarnetta be? He like, what's up? What is this?
Yeah.
And so he got mad because Sarnetta actually paid him to have that discussion.
So Sarnetta wanted to see some sparks. He wanted to see some sparks. I'm not paying for flowers. I'm paying for dynamite.
and so he like, what's going on? So it ends up they end up falling out because of it. So when all this Brother Polite controversy came up, Zion Lex actually tried his best to connect Sarnetta to it, and this is where he messed up. And this video out there, unless he took it down.
I didn't know all this, so I was speaking very favorably of Zion Lex's skill and his character. I think I was ignorant, frankly.
This bro, you just, and if you don't know, you don't know.
I was trying to be charitable though too. I did not know all this.
This brother literally said when the Brother Polite controversy came up, he tried to connect Sarnetta to it, which Sarnetta ain't had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that's not fair.
His association to Polite from the past. But this brother said, I knew Polite had this in him based on a past interaction. But what he failed to say in that same live stream was that you've been building with Polite for years, since the initial incident that you said where you realized you knew he had this in him. You've built with him multiple times.
Yeah, one of the videos on my channel where we criticize some Zion Lex stuff is him and Polite sitting on the couch with the ladies.
Exactly. And
the ladies, they're all smiling, everybody's,
This incident where he said he knew Polite had this type of behavior in him was way before that. Zion Lex is fugazi. And when I heard him say that, and
stealing my people's words.
Y'all
take that to somebody else. Take that to somebody who don't know better. That's fugazi. Take that to somebody else who doesn't know.
Monopoly,
I'm just kidding, man. I'm just.
But look, I heard this dude say that, and I'm like, bruh, you've been building with this dude since this incident happened. So why were you building with him if you knew he had this in him? So the hypocrisy is crazy when it comes to this dude, Zion Lex. I don't know him personally. I'm going off of the words that came out of his mouth and the actions I've seen from him. So I get that you didn't know, but I'm just putting it out there. Dude off the chain. And so let me address something with my brother Michael Black.
I wish it wasn't like that. I honestly,
making up neo-Ma'at. You late, bro. Being debate Egypt, KEMET bros for 30 years. Been around Dr. Ben, Dr. Walter Williams, Steve Coakley, Colin Muhammad, Dick Gregory, Dr. Francis Cresswell, Dr. Layla Africa, etc. That's what's up, bro. Salute to you for that. What I'm telling you is I didn't make up the 7 principles. You saying I made that up? No, I didn't. I said I practiced that in my daily life. I didn't say the 42. You said Ma'at was for the afterlife. You are correct. The 42 negative confessions are for the afterlife. The 7 principles of Ma'at are for the living. You can say whatever you want to say. That's a fact. I don't care who made it up. I don't care if a dude made it up yesterday. It's still for the living, not for the dead. The 42 are for the dead. I didn't say I practice the 42. I said the 7 principles. So, like, reading is fundamental. That's what I said, bro. So I don't know where the misunderstanding is. The 42 are for the dead. The 7 principles are for the living. Period. I don't care if somebody made it up yesterday, because everything that's out there is made up by somebody. So what's your point? Y'all go ahead.
Well, I just guess it wasn't like that. I mean, he's talking about stuff being made up with Egypt. I'd be curious to get people's opinion on a book like this. Profane Egyptologists, The Modern Revival of Ancient Egyptian Religion, Routledge. I haven't finished this whole book, but it has some interesting stuff in here about this. Just from the back, it is widely believed that the practice of ancient Egyptian religion ceased with the end of pharaonic culture and the rise of Christianity. However, an organized reconstruction and revival of the authentic practice of Egyptian or Kemetic religion has been growing, almost undocumented, for nearly 3 decades. Profane Egyptologists is the first in-depth study of the now global phenomenon of Kemeticism. Presenting key players in their own words, the book utilizes extensive interviews to reveal a continuum of beliefs and practices spanning 8 years of community growth. And it goes on from there. But be curious, because it's interesting, the kind of revival of Kemeticism, how closely tied is it to ancient Kemeticism is a question I'm still exploring.
Yeah, that's a great question, because the largest, people don't realize, the largest Kemetic, quote unquote, Kemetic temple in the United States is headed by a woman whose pigmentation is just like yours, Vocab.
Oh, she's Sicilian?
So I'm just saying, but nobody talks about it in our community, but that's a fact.
Well, it seems like the guys who started the revival were also of a fair hue.
Absolutely. So I mean, that's just what it is. So I don't know what people would have to say about it, but these are facts. It ain't no getting around it.
Well, it's interesting stuff here. Yeah. So, man, hey, I'm always learning stuff. So there's a lot to learn here. There's always something to learn, something new here. So that's why I like dialoguing with people. Even if I disagree or maybe, that's why I don't go around talking about, oh, this person's not worthy and they don't know. You'll learn something by talking to anybody. If you just have an open mind and give it a chance, my goodness, people out here, this person's not worth anything. People talk crazy. I'll learn from anybody,
Yeah. When I first started studying Kemetic spirituality, I ran into red hair, green eyes. And so you can imagine her ethnicity. And she running all this stuff down to me. And I'm like, okay, and she was big on the fact that, we have to be respectful that these are African deities, but they believe literally in every deity in ancient Kemet. I mean, every last one. And so I don't care if it's the deity of urine, and I that don't exist, but I'm just saying hypothetically, if it was, they would acknowledge it. So you can almost say to a certain degree, and people are gonna get mad when I say this, but to a certain degree, they are trying to reach a level of closeness to the original practice as they see it than a lot of other people are. So, I mean, say what you want to about it, but when we talk about Kemetic spirituality from the sense of polytheism and not these were aspects of the one, or as they say, the one who is the many, they are trying to express that particular aspect. Now you have others who acknowledge our moon and the fact that our moon encompassed every facet of creation, including each of the dead. And so you have those who follow that. But these people who have a mixed congregation, Black, white, Latino, etc., they are trying to find and practice something that is true and close to what they believe the ancient Egyptians or Cometians or the Remech.
Hold up, Pete. Is this dude Michael Blackson challenging you? Don't he know you a Kemetic saber, bro?
Man, I don't know what Michael Blackson know. I've seen him in my chat before, and I heard him for the first time on Chris Harris' show a few weeks back talking to Kansu. So, and I respect to the brother. If he want to challenge me, he welcome to it. I'll let you moderate and hit me and him.
He's saying you neo-Kemetic and all that. This is a real Kemetic saber, Michael Blackson. I don't know who you is, so I ain't gonna disrespect you or nothing. This is a legit Kemetic saber, bro. This ain't no certificate.
I got my certificate. Often, I got all my stuff all over there. I go get it and put it on the screen if need. I do this.
No disrespect. He talking about Dr. Ben and Walter Williams and all them. And,
I get it.
Some of them got it wrong. Those dudes were the Kemetic sabers. This is a real Kemetic saber, bro. I just want to put that out there. So go ahead, bro.
Maybe he older. And I ain't disrespecting the brother. Like,
yeah,
hey, listen, if you want to have a dialogue, this
who you talking to, though.
This is the place to do it. So just let me know. Let me know.
Hey, I know you don't like patting yourself. I know you don't like patting yourself on the back, but I'm always do it for you. Hey, this is and I'm gonna say it again for the fourth time. This is a real Kemetic saber. We ain't talking about none of them pseudo didn't graduate high school but try to get into a college and be a. Don't let me go there. This is a real saber. That's all I'm gonna say. This is a real saber, bro. Michael Blackson, whatever your name is. Go ahead, bro. My bad. I just had to say that real quick because that was kind of getting at me. Like,
I appreciate it, bro. But listen, Michael Blackson, all due respect, bro. If you want to have that, Or if you just want to do a presentation on why, it ain't even got to be a debate, man. You ain't got to go back and forth. If you just want to come on and say why you feel you can't practice Ma'at according to Dr. Ben, etc., whatever it is, you can come on and present. We can have a dialogue, whatever it is you want to do, bro. You already know. I don't reject none of my people. So come on and speak your speech however you want to do it. So just let me know. Reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram. If you need my email address, let me know. I'll put it in the chat. But let's get back to Vocab. And so Vocab, before we open it up to the chat, I know you had some questions for me, or maybe some questions for me. Anything in particular you wanted to ask me before we switch to have some people come on?
Sure. Do you hold that the ancient gods described in KEMET have true existence?
I do not. Personally, I do not, but I do know individuals who do.
And do you think they're wrong?
Do I think they're wrong? I don't think they're wrong in the sense that I say that I feel like they have a right to believe whatever they want to believe. So I wouldn't say that they were wrong for believing it. I just don't think that that's right and exact for personally. But to say that I don't think they wrong for believing it, just like I don't think you wrong for believing in Christianity. I just don't think neither one are literally true.
So would you say in reference to the Egyptian gods that you're an atheist? You're atheistic towards the Egyptian gods, like Isis, Osiris, Horus, Amun, Ra, Hathor, Bastet, Thoth, Anubis?
I would say I respect the narratives and the stories. I can take wisdom from those narratives, just like I could take it from Christianity. If we were to get technical, then yeah, I would be an atheist with regards to my belief in them as literal beings, but as in regards to them being symbols or things like that, and then yeah, I can see where people could draw from the symbolism, but in terms of them being literal deities or deities, no, I don't adhere to that whatsoever.
Do you think any of the spells found in the ancient Egyptian literature have valid power?
No.
So would you practice any of them?
No.
So if someone prays to Ra, do you think they're essentially praying or speaking to something or someone that does not exist?
I think that it's power in people feeling strongly about their particular belief. You know, I think I'm talking to, I don't know if if we're gonna be able to keep tomorrow, but I'm supposed to be talking to a Muslim brother from the NOI. He strongly believes that Farah Muhammad was God in the flesh. I don't believe that whatsoever, but I think that he has conviction in his belief, and I think he believes that there is truth to that. And when someone believes in something strongly, I think that it can provide inspiration to them. And so I don't think that they're wrong per se. I just don't adhere to that particular belief. But I wouldn't say that someone was wrong or right or wrong. I just don't adhere to it myself.
Do you think the native confessions are an important guide for how you orchestrate your life?
I think they can be. If you look at them, I think that a lot of them, or all of them, are universal they can be transferred to, because they are confessions, but they can be transferred to universal laws of what one should and shouldn't do as they live in their daily lives. So they can be. I have not lied. I have not fornicated with my brother's wife, etc. And I'm paraphrasing, but
one says, "I have not stolen the property of God." Do you think that's relevant?
Well,
because there's no God, he can't have property, right?
But if you literally believe in that deity, then it would be relevant to you, though. So I couldn't say for the person who believes in that deity that's wrong to confess.
But you couldn't follow that because there's no God to steal from, right?
Right. I couldn't follow that because I wouldn't be in a position to say I have not stolen from God, and I wouldn't be in a position to steal from said God anyway. So yeah, so for me it wouldn't be relevant, but for the person who is relevant to, sure.
One of those says, "I have not raised my voice."
Right.
Do you think anyone living can actually confess that and say that that's true? I have never raised my voice, or is there some interpretation people put on it that I'm not aware of?
It may be somebody out there who could say that. I have no idea. I haven't met every living person, but I think that it's something to aspire to. As far as
when you confess it, you have to say before the deity, right, "I have never done this."
Right, and that to me it would be no. I couldn't say it probably any day of my life since I was 12 years old that I haven't raised my voice. But and everybody on this channel knows that I have bipolar 2 disorder, so I couldn't say from one day to the next at a particular time in my life what I did with regards to anger. So I think that for the person who is aspiring to control their anger or control how they talk to other individuals, I think that may be a useful goal, but to literally say it, I couldn't personally say it, and I don't know many people who could.
Well, we've both seen Netta's debates.
Right.
These guys on there claim to be I don't think
right. I don't even know if our brother Jabari could say that, because even he's gotten to a certain point in some of his discussions where he's raised his voice in as nice a way as possible, but he still raised his voice. So, but again, I haven't met every person in existence, so I don't know if it's a person out there who can make that confession truly. But I think it is something to aspire to for those who are looking to control their temper, control how they talk to other people. So they're
not really possible to completely keep then.
Well, to me, no. That's why I confessed to. That's why I said to the brother in the chat, Michael Black, I don't espouse to keep the 42 negative confessions. What I espouse to keep are the 7 principles of mind. The 42 negative confessions are for the afterlife anyway. And if you read the narrative of when the brother, and I can't think of the brother's name in the narrative right now, but he has to kind of pull some shenanigans in order for his heart to weigh less than a feather. He couldn't just flat out say this, that I didn't do these things and now here accept me. He had to kind of finagle his way into a positive situation. And if you read the narrative within the Pert Amharu itself, so the narrative is telling you that this isn't exactly a feat that most human beings, if any, can follow. So
what do you do to make atonement? So being that you can't live your life perfectly following them, and I'm not sure if you could say here's my guides, but no one, I don't think, also would completely be able to follow the 7 principles where they never violate them, because one lie would violate the statute of truth, right? You know, things not being in harmony, balance, order. Well, you know, not always. We don't always return. We don't always have reciprocity. So what does a person do if they violate one of them? How do you make it right? Is it possible?
For me, this is why I always say, when people make these one-to-one comparisons with Christianity and ancient Kemetic spirituality, that they sort of barking up the wrong tree, because it's not a one-to-one comparison. And for example, me and my brother Byron Washington, who were in the chat, we always talk about how we see similar things that these ancient Africans can look to and say, you know what, I recognize that, but wait a minute. So Issachar was killed by his brother, and upon his death became king of the underworld and allowed it, because people don't realize, up until a certain point in Kemet, I think about the first 3 dynasties, only the Nasut, meaning the pharaoh, could go into the afterlife.
Yeah.
Everybody else, it was you know.
I've told, not in those exact words, but I've told a couple of Kemetic guys, hey, this was the rich man's religion back in the day.
Right. And so, but after, like I said, the first 2 or 3 dynasties, then it became opened up where every citizen, even the common people, could go into the afterlife based on whether or not they fit this criteria. And this was based on the death of Issachar. So here's where the comparison comes in. Issachar's death opens it up so each person within the Kemetic society could go into the afterlife. And so if you were ancient Kemite being exposed to Christianity, and again, I'm not caping for Christianity, I'm just stating facts. If you're an ancient African or an ancient Kemite being exposed to Christianity, and you hear these different terms, you can relate to certain elements. But when you get to Issachar and Jesus, it's okay, Issachar was killed by his brother, and his death allowed us to enter the halls of Ma'at, and we still have to fit particular criteria in order to go into the field of reeds. And we can talk about the field of reeds, which is the Kemetic heaven, and how it's almost a 1-for-1 with the Christian heaven, including a new perfected body, etc. We can talk about that at another time. But when it comes to the role Issachar plays and the role Jesus plays, Jesus makes the sacrifice, and all you have to do is confess your sins, repent, dedicate your life to him. And if I'm missing something, y'all too, Christians, can tell me, and you good if you earnest about it. With Issachar, he opens it up for you to be able to go through these trials, but you still have to weigh your heart and do all of these other different things. So while he allows you to go through this process, his death doesn't necessarily clear the path for you the way Jesus does. So these Africans, to me, it was like common sense, like, because people act like these were stupid people. They saying like, wait a minute, so we don't even have to worry about going through this other stuff because he did all that already. I think I'm gonna rock with Christianity. And this is how Christianity hit Africa and spread, because technically, if you really want to explore it on that level, it was a better option, and it made more sense to some of these people. Because I'm not by any means saying that every Kemite just automatically converted to Christianity. And I'm saying for those who did, because we know some did. And that's what me and my brother often talk about, because there is no I confess my sins and I'm done. You still have steps you have to take within the narrative of the afterlife. If you're walking with me, I hope what I said made sense.
Well, you have to weigh your heart against the feather of Ma'at, but then is Anubis the one who decides?
The alligator?
It's Ma'at. It's actually the scales, and if your heart weighs more, you are devoured, and if it weighs less, you become one with the soil, and you go on to the field of reeds.
Is Anubis? I thought Anubis in some way was part of the process where he dictated.
Anubis the one that eats you up.
Anpu, no, it's not Anpu. Anpu is not the one that eats you up. Anpu is actually your guide through this process, and he mummifies those who are deported, etc.
The one who eats you up, that's Amit, right?
Right.
Right. My bad. I got the names mixed up. My bad.
It's like a crocodile and a hippopotamus.
Yeah.
Bird.
But you don't believe any of that. So when you say, this one God opened it up to be possible, but you're just.
Well, I'm talking about the narrative. I'm not saying like this any of this is literal. I'm just saying according to the narrative. So don't take it as I'm saying like these things happen.
No, I know. That's why I'm saying it's. So it seems like how does a person, if you think the principles are true, how does a person get it to where their heart weighs lighter than the feather?
Well, when you say that the principles are true, how can you deny, truth, justice, reciprocity, harmony, except like those are true elements to everyday life that one can abide by. So that's not something that I think is far-fetched.
Yeah, I don't disagree that those are real, because those are based upon the character of, I'm a Christian, the character of God. But if the gods of Egypt aren't real, then what is the concept of truth based upon? Meaning, what's the standard for what's harmonious, and then who decides ultimately?
So let me ask you this, if I may. So with regards to you being a Christian, and these things predating Christianity, and when I say these things, I mean the Kemetic deities, these narratives, with these things predating Christianity, then how would you as a Christian explain these African people having these concepts prior to the inception of Christianity? Because they still had a grasp for these things, regardless of not being Christians.
Well, yeah. So the Bible teaches that every person is made in the image of God. Genesis 1:26, 1:27. And sometimes that's referred to as the doctrine of the Imago Dei. So because of that, we bear the image of God. That means there's a reality of every one of us that is designed, and it's kind of broken because of sin, but designed to reflect him. So that would include a sense of fairness, truth, justice. So that's why those principles can be spread across all kinds of cultures. Every culture is like, in some way or another, says, hey, don't murder, and if you do, you get in trouble. But then they kind of make it okay to essentially murder some people or not counted as murder for others. And that's why the question is of, okay, who's my neighbor type of thing that you see in the New Testament, for example. But I mean, yes, those things would predate Christianity in a technical sense, because when Jesus came, but, we're holding that Jesus is the fulfillment of the Old Testament. And so
the Old Testament came before Christianity.
So this would go back to the creation of the world. And Egyptian religion of all forms and varieties is actually a derivative of the worship of the one true God. So instead of worshiping the one true God, as was originally intended in the garden, people go off and then make gods over individual elements of nature and kind of break God down into where there's a God who manages a category. So this God's in charge of the water, this God's in charge of the animals, this God's in charge of the thunder, this God's in charge of the grain, this God's in charge of sex, this God's, break it down. And there's these little elements of truth, but they end up sort of being personified superhumans because then they have all our flaws and foibles. So they're sort of gods made in our image instead of us being made in the image of God. Say what?
I think what you're thinking about right now, though, would be like Norse mythology or Greek mythology, as opposed to Kemetic mythology. Because when you look at Kemetic mythology, I don't see where these deities have our flaws in the way that most narratives with regards to these pantheons have, outside of Sutek or what most people would call Set or Apep, which most people.
What about Sobek, the crocodile god of the Nile? He was kind of jacked up.
Well,
aggressive and sexual, and
that's what I mean. It's like you may have like 3, 4 examples, but for the most part, it's not as pervasive as you would see in other cultures. So if you can give me, and I know, like I said, Sutek, Apep, Sobek,
Set.
I would say, Sutek and Set are the same.
Oh, sorry, I always have trouble with the Greek versus the older name. I'm still learning those.
But I would even throw Sekhmet in there if you want to. So those examples I get, but as far as the rest of the pantheon, what would you say would be an analogy to some of these other pantheons we see?
Well, those are the ones I'm thinking, but as far as the character flaws, those are the ones I knew like more quickly. Although I have a feeling there could be more. I mean, even with the ones that are deemed more heroic, they're not really a good model for life, because you've got people marrying their brothers and then having sex with them in the form of animals, stuff like that, which is like ancestral bestial necrophilia.
Yeah, we got to remember though, they didn't. These are still ancient people who are trying to explain the existence of mankind, of the universe. That's just like, because somebody I was talking to a Hebrew brother, and he was saying that it's a perverted religion, talking about the Kemetic tradition. And his example was that Amun created the universe by masturbating. And I was like, okay, I understand what you mean. But he thinking of masturbating like no, not saying that you do this, but like you or I would. And so we human beings, number one, this is not a human being that's being described. But number two, I don't think that this was a literal person. And that's not to say that the Kemetic people did or didn't believe that this was a literal being. But my point is, the ancient people of Kemet knew that when a man put his seed forth into a woman, life would spring forth within the form of a child. So these are still ancient people. They're not as advanced in their knowledge and in their thought process as we are. So the idea that creation would come about through a male deity, spreading his seed is not far-fetched when they knew what happened during sex. And so I'm like, it's like my man making it, it's so perverted, but they weren't looking at it like, it's so sexual, and no, they knew what happened when that took place within the confines of intercourse. And so they like, oh, okay, this is probably how everything came about.
Well,
And-
the Hebrews knew that too, though. But don't you think their account is far superior? In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. He spoke, and it was.
Well, I would see. I could see why someone would say that. I wouldn't say it's superior per se. I would just say it's different because.
Well, I think just speaking it into existence is better than masturbating in your own mouth.
I don't know because here's why, and I'm gonna tell you.
I haven't tried both. Or
right. Well,
but,
we would. I don't think you or me could speak anything into existence, but and I wouldn't even attempt to masturbate into my own mouth. So
kudos to you. You're better than your gods. I'm just kidding.
Exactly. So,
but check this out.
So here's the thing.
He said we can't speak anything into existence. Don't you see that amazing beauty there? Where the conception in the Bible is much different.
I get it. But here's the thing about Geb and putting seed into his mouth. It says that he put seed into his mouth and then he went about spreading it. In other words, spitting it across the world in order to create all of existence. Now, you see that creation story. You also see the other one where Amun masturbates to create the universe. You see another one where Khnum creates everything on the potter's wheel. So you see various creation stories throughout ancient Kemet. And here's the reason. Because people looked at different stories and said, you know what, that one may not make sense. That one may not make sense. I think this one makes more sense, etc. Because this was a 3,000-year-old society that continued to evolve. Just like a lot of people like to bring up, you brought up earlier how people like to bring about negative things in order to make a defense against a particular person or a particular topic, right? And a lot of people, when talking about ancient Kemet, bring up retainer sacrifice. They never bring up the fact that it was like two kings in the first dynasty that did this. Now, this is two kings in the first dynasty out of like 32 dynasties in 3,000 years that did this particular practice, but they bring it up to cast aspersions on this whole civilization. And so my point is, as flawed as we may think it is, again, these were ancient people, primitive in their thinking, that knew life would spring about when two people came together and had sexual intercourse. And so in their mind, life was in a man's seed because a woman didn't get pregnant without it. So this must be the way the universe was created. I don't have a problem with that per se, even though I know that's not likely how we all came about. So I just think that they were ancient people trying to figure out how the world came about, just no different than the Greeks, the Norse, in that society or otherwise.
Well, I appreciate that. It's good to hear, Perspective. I got to go in a bit. I don't know if you want to take any questions from the audience or.
Yeah, let me drop this in the.
Sorry, I was loving this discussion between y'all, man. So we got to get that going on another show. Y'all two going back and forward on that.
Yeah, I think me and Vocab can chop it up without it getting,
Yeah, that's what I was liking about it. Yeah. Well, nobody, not taking it wrong. I love that. Yeah.
But I think me and this dude Michael Black gonna have to have a conversation, man.
No, y'all got to, bro. Y'all got to.
Going crazy.
Like at first he was everything Vocab was saying about the Hebrew Israelism was wrong, and then when you started talking about Kemet, you started saying what you saying wrong. Like, come on, man, what's wrong with you?
Like, make up your mind, man. Like,
your mind up, man.
Who are you, man? Like, you know how you get people who just want to be contrary.
Yeah, just want to be combative.
My man just want to argue, and that's cool because I love you, bro. You know, I live to argue. So you want an argument? I got one for you, bro. Let's just set it up. Let's set it up.
And my bad, man. I had to walk off. Y'all know my daughter just had surgery this week, so I gotta go tend to her every now and again. She in a lot of pain. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Vocab, I pray for her, man. She was born with a club foot, and they fixed it when she was a child, and now as she got older, it started going in the opposite direction. So they had to break it again this week. She's 16 now. They had to break it again, and put this, try to fix it. And so she just came home from the hospital yesterday. So she in a whole lot of pain. So I would appreciate your prayers, man.
Oh my, yeah.
I just text you the link. You want me to email it?
Yeah, that's intense. Well, I'm glad she's got pops there to try to make it better and get her some chicken noodle soup or something.
Hey, man, she in here eating hamburgers and stuff.
Still, that's no joke.
Oh no, man, for real, man. Yeah, like I was saying, when she came out the womb, it's her right foot. So when she was coming out the womb, and you know how club foot is, it turns to a certain direction. So it was folded to the left inside. They broke it, straightened it up, and over the years it started folding to the right. So yeah, so they
Yeah. Cap tied up, but he gonna try to come in before Vocab leave. If he can't, we'll try to get Vocab back on sooner than we did this last time. I think it was over a year since you've been on last time, so we're gonna try to get you back sooner so you and Cap could definitely chop it up if y'all not able to this time.
Yeah, I thought we had a good debate when we debated baptism.
Yeah,
I thought it was cool.
No doubt. So I got the link in the chat. We taking one person at a time. We got Michael Smith. All right, my brother, real quick, no cursing. Keep it respectful. What's on your mind? Michael Smith, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Shalom. Peace to everyone.
Peace.
Yes, sir. I'm not one to curse, so you can put your defenses down, brother. I'm not against you. I'm for my people.
No. I just have to say that because I get some brothers who that just come natural, and I'm one of them, so I'm talking to myself more than anybody else. But I appreciate
no problem. It's, you know how they say it's nothing new under the sun.
Exactly.
So what the deal is, we were going back and forth with this 20 years ago. When brothers were claiming that they kept Ma'at and that the 10 Commandments came from Ma'at. That was a claim. So this is not a new argument. It's still here today. So when I had an opportunity, I got a chance to talk to their leader, which at the time was Dr. Ben, foremost leader in Black Egyptology. And I asked him point blank, because I was representing the Israelites, and we subscribe to the 10 Commandments as a moral code and guide for life. And I asked him straight up in front of thousands of people, and it's archived on WOL 1450, Captain Hughes Station, Radio 1. Dick Gregory was co-hosting. And I asked him point blank.
Shout out to Dick Gregory. St. Louis is on. I'm from St. Louis, so go ahead, bro.
Yes, sir. So I asked him point blank, do you brothers, and I consider you my brothers, I don't look at religion and belief. I look at us as Black people as one. And I said, do you brothers, no, I asked Dr. Ben, do you keep Ma'at as these brothers claim that they keep it, as we, tend to the 10 Commandments as a moral guide and code? And he succinctly said no, and explained that Ma'at was said in the afterlife, and he went through the whole breakdown. But it's no argument. Now, when it comes to Vocab Malone, I want to know from you, how come you in Abu, when I have confronted you and told you for years, why do you keep saying that Abba Bivens started ISUPK when you know that's not the truth?
What do you mean that's not true? What do you think he started if he didn't start what became the ICUPK? What did he start?
You know exactly what he started.
Yeah, the Israel Tanakh school.
But listen to what you said. You said what became. So already you know that there was a process. So you know the name of the school that he started. So why do you keep saying, that's the question. I just want to know what the answer to that question.
Yeah, so there's the back of the book that he wrote in 1950. It's the stamp is upside down, but that's the book. And it says property, Israel Tanakh School. Do you notice the address there, though? Do you see the address on this? Do you see the address on the screen?
No. You see.
Well, no. Could you just answer that question? That's a basic question. I'm just asking you. Do you see the address on the screen? No,
Israel. But listen to what you're saying. We're going to go step by step here.
This part of the step is you answering the question. Do you see the address on the screen? Okay, but people are listening. We're trying to edify the people here. I know, but can't you just say yes or no? Do you see the address on the screen? Every time I talk, you're being disrespectful. Israel Tanakh School is not the same as ISUPK. So the question is, why do you continue to put it out there that Abba Bivens started ISUPK?
Okay, so what I need is for you to let Vocab answer uninterrupted, and then you respond.
The way it works is changing the name of an organization doesn't mean it's not the same organization. I live in Phoenix. The St. Louis Cardinals left St. Louis, Missouri. Sorry about that, guys. Maybe you don't want them after all, actually. And they came out to Phoenix, and at first they were called the Phoenix Cardinals, and then they were called the Arizona Cardinals. So that's 3 name changes. The organization was the same. The people were the same. They didn't start a brand new team. It wasn't all brand new players, a totally different roster. The location changed. Now check this out. With what became later named the ICUPK, the original name, according to this, was something like Israel Tanakh School. The address is the same as the school that became the ICUPK. And it was changed by Abba Bivens' students. It wasn't changed by some random people. It was changed by his students. He died. So if you're going to say what he started and didn't start, we've always said what he started was called this. We did a whole show on it. But to deny that the continuation was what his students did is utterly ridiculous. We've never said that they taught 100% of what he taught. We can discern that there are some things that he taught were different. That was the purpose of why we went into his book that he wrote. So you're charging us with something that we don't say. He did start what became that, and it's the same location with the same personnel except for him because he died. And I don't understand what the problem is. If you were saying he didn't start it, then why did they have the same address? And why was it his students that were still there? And if it's not the case, then no organization you could say was started by anybody after they died, because if the name changes or something like that, or if they change, then it's not their organization anymore. I mean, no one lives forever. The continuation of what he started is the ICUPK, same address, same personnel. Did they make changes? Yes, we've always said that. That's kind of the point. But he also made changes from when he left under the Commandment Keepers. This is the nature of how things go. But we would never say the Commandment Keepers started One West, because they didn't. But Abba Bivens, who was an attendee at the Commandment Keepers, did. So he left, starts it, and it continues on. I don't know why. It's a simple reality. Just because it's not the person's dead doesn't mean it's not their organization anymore. So I don't understand what the argument is. We're not lying. We've always said this. You just seem to kind of live in a denial of the facts. And you always bring this up, but you won't even acknowledge the address on the screen, like a basic, simple question. You won't even answer. So it's difficult to see how we can have a profitable dialogue. You won't even admit that it's the same address on here, but it's the same address. You know, it's simple. But what's the issue? What do you take issue with here?
Let's let the brother respond uninterrupted. Go ahead, bro. Michael Black.
You're muted. You're still muted there.
Unmute yourself.
Yeah, what year did ISUPK start and what year did Abba Bivens die?
Both of those things are not 100% known. Both of those things are not 100% known because you get conflicting reports about it. But we have done some show on Abba Bivens and came up with a few dates. I forget what they were at the top of my head, but they were all in the early 70s is when it seems like he died, in the early 70s. And the name was, it's unclear when the name was changed too. So it's difficult to know exactly. For example, the stamp is on here, but that could have been put on after his death as well. So some of this stuff is unclear, but whenever we're unclear, we say it was unclear. If anyone wants to clear it up and say what happened with other specifics, we all say, okay, well, because we have no interest. I have no interest in lying about it. I want the facts and the truth. That's why I'm going into these documents, which no one Wester was bringing these out. No old timer was bringing these out. It took an outsider, somebody digging it up with some friends who made this happen to bring this stuff up. You know what I mean? So it's not like the people in the community are really doing this themselves. And frankly, Michael Smith, you have not really helped. Whenever we bring this up, all you say is that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Frankly, you have provided no positive information yourself. We have no reason to believe you really know what you're talking about because you have provided zero positive to the conversation. Now, you may find that disrespectful. Maybe you do know something and I could learn from you. I would appreciate that. But if all you do is be a naysayer, what's the evidence you have any information? Because I was told when you were asked the question you just asked me, when did Abba Bivens die? You didn't know yourself. Now, maybe you've learned since what it was since then. Maybe that was incorrect. But do you know the year Abba Bivens died? For sure?
No, I never claimed to, but you're trying to put the pieces together, and your story is full of holes. First of all, you said that Abba Bivens started the school of Tanakh, which I agree. The question is, show proof that he started ISUPK, a claim that you have made in the past. There's videos, remember that, Vocab. Now, Abba Bivens was killed, he was murdered, assassinated. The school of Torah Tanakh was destroyed. According to Tahar, Arya sold out, meaning he's working for the Roman Catholic Church in the Jesuit order. What he did was he brought in a system called universal, another word for universal, someone said it earlier, Catholic, practical knowledge. Abba Bivens did not promote Arya to promote the Son of Mary or Christianity.
Well, hold up.
That was the trade-off. So
Abba Bivens quoted the New Testament. Abba Bivens quoted the New Testament. You just said he didn't promote. I would never say he promoted Christianity. He never claimed to be a Christian. We never said he was a Christian. We're out here saying these groups aren't Christian. But he did quote as authoritative the New Testament. Do you deny that Abba Bivens quoted authoritatively? Wait,
hold on. You're saying that you're out here. You're saying we. Who was we? You said we out here. Who was we? You mentioned
me and Abu, for example.
Okay, so what is a Christian? What's the definition of Christian?
One who is a disciple of Christ.
Okay, so they are Christians. They promote Christ. Okay, so you can't judge them and say they're not Christians. They are Christians.
They are not Christians. I can't judge them because Christ did not teach to hate your neighbor. He literally taught the opposite, and the school there teaches to hate your neighbor.
Yeah, he also told you to sell all that you have and give to the church. He taught a lot of things that you don't do. Christians argue amongst each other about who's the right Christian. So you can't say that they're not Christians. See, this is a problem. Abba Bivens was what you would consider an Old Testament Israelite or Torah-based.
Do you see what's on the screen here?
Say that again.
Do you see what's on the screen? Do you see this is his book, and look what it says. I'm going to show you that you were incorrect, that he was not an Old Testament only Israelite. And this is where you just...
listen to what I said.
Look what's on the screen. There's your words, but then there's what's on the screen.
You're not going to twist my word.
But it says 2 Timothy 3:16 right here.
Okay, see how you're talking? See, you're being slick again, Vocab. Abba Bivens did not promote the Son of Mary. Now let's go. You prove that now.
So the Son of Mary is Jesus the Christ, right?
Right. Show where he worshiped and told the people to follow Jesus.
Promoting and worshiping.
I'm not changing it. That's what a Christian does.
Let me read you this.
That's what ISUPK does. They promote the black Yahweh Shai or whoever. Show me where Abba Bivens promoted Yahweh Shai.
Right here.
And told us to worship him or follow him. Okay.
As Adam caused the whole world to pass into death down to the end of the Gentiles' age, so all men will come into life in the beginning of the restitution, which means the act of restoring back to life, through Joshua, which the world called Christ. He just wrote that the way the restoration or restitution of coming back to life is going to be through Christ. And then he quotes the New Testament, the Apostle Paul, to prove it. Quote, we know this to be true by referring to Romans 5:12, wherefore as one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed on to all men, for all have sinned. Verse 18, therefore as the offense of one judgment came upon all men to condemnation, even so by the righteousness of one, who's that's Christ, the free gift came upon all men unto justification of life. Do you see that? You said, where does he promote Jesus? He promoted Jesus right there in a very fundamental way.
But hold on, are you aware?
Michael, we're gonna wrap it up. This is gonna be the last one. Look in the private chat though and get my info so we can get you on.
Am I aware of what?
Hey, you come on.
Are you aware that there's a video with the former students of Abba Bivens? Have you seen those videos?
Well, Arya is one of his former students.
I'm asking the question. Have you seen those videos?
Well, I'm answering the question. I've seen videos with Arya. Arya is one of his former students. Now, do you mean his colleagues? Do you mean his colleagues?
No, I'm talking about students that were there in the school that talk about what was taught.
Yes, Arya was a student of Abba Bivens. Do you recognize that, right?
If you go to Lewy Uziel's channel, he has them there, so they all cut what you're saying.
Those were contemporaries. Those were not students.
Listen, the school of Torah, Tanakh, does not promote Jesus for salvation. This is the difference.
Even though it was just on the screen in your own book, in his book. Are you denying he wrote this book?
I'm telling you that we have on record students of the school that tell us, the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses tell us, eyewitnesses, what was taught. Okay?
Hey, Michael Smith, look in the private chat and get my info, bro, so you can come back on, man, and you can do whatever. We can have a convo.
So Vocab, stop going around saying Abba Bivens started ISUPK. I did.
First of all, we don't say that. Second of all, Arya was a student. Third of all, you just said they don't promote Jesus, then he has nothing to do with salvation. I showed you on the screen from his own book. Then you're referring to people as students who are his contemporaries, and they don't deny this. They don't really speak on that issue very much. This is what we do see. And if you go back, even the commandment keepers had an iteration of their name that had Christ in it. There's videos of older members talking about this. So, you know, you're saying one thing, but Abba Bivens' words are saying another. You started out talking about he won't even quote the New Testament. He's Old Testament only. I showed you he quoted the New Testament. You said, oh, he didn't get into Jesus. I showed you directly where he ties restitution in with Jesus, and that's not the only reference to Christ. He calls him Joshua, but he says Christ as well, so you know who he's talking about. He quotes the Apostle Paul, and he says, we know this to be true because it says this in Romans 5:12. So, Michael, I hear what you're saying. You are living in denial of Abba Bivens' own writings, unless you want to somehow make a claim that this is not the writings of Abba Bivens. That's the only thing you can do. That's the only thing you can do.
Okay, watch this. Are you saying that the commandment keepers promoted Jesus Christ as a savior for the world?
No. See,
so why did you mention them then?
I never said that. I said there's an iteration of their name where they included Jesus in the name. If you study the history, you'll find out.
Why did you just mention them?
Okay. Sir, you got to listen to what I'm saying, what I'm not saying. There's an iteration of the commandment keepers at one time throughout their history. There's evidence indicates from members. There's even some videos of this online where they talk about at one time they had in the name Jesus attached to the school's name. and it was always confusing.
Why? Do you know why?
What the lady said is, she said that they used it essentially as a gimmick to get Christians into the
yes. So they used it as a gimmick. They did not promote it. This is what I'm saying. So Abba Bivens quoted
shady is that?
sometimes from the New Testament.
You're admitting your leaders are salesmen and charlatans and use snake oil guys, man. How fraudulent is that, right?
All right, bro. Mike.
He should stay on. He can't stay on. He's.
Y'all keep building. Keep building.
Michael Smith. I knew that.
It's just like me. A lot of times I'll say, prove all things. That don't mean I believe in JC. I'm quoting from the New Testament because I know that that's where a person that I'm talking to, that's the level they are. So that's what they were dealing with, Sunday keeping Black people. So they were meeting them where they were to bring them over. That's what it said in the video. It was a gimmick. It was a hook. Even your Paul,
okay with that?
You're okay with Paul using gal, aren't you?
Yeah, the Apostle Paul, who Abba Bivens quoted as being true. I'm okay with the Apostle Paul, yeah.
Okay, so why are you bringing it up then? The point is that stop saying that Abba Bivens started ISUBK.
We never said that.
Ariah did. Ariah sold out, set up an altar to the angel Michael, bringing in the son of Mary worship, which is the gods of the Roman Catholic Church.
Hold on.
Jesus and Mary, who you worship.
Well, hold on, Michael. If what you're saying in that last part is true, because I think some of what you said is conspiracy theory, but are you saying for a fact Ariah set up an altar to Michael? I'm not disagreeing. How do you know that's true? I've never heard that before. Tell me.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You never heard it because you're new to this and you don't have all the information.
No. Just help me out. Let's say I need to be educated. Tell me how you know that and educate me, please. I'm sincerely asking. Is that claim true? And if so, how do you know? Because I'm not gonna.
Yes. I've been on these YouTube streets since 2006.
Okay,
and there's
that doesn't give you evidence. What's your evidence?
There's a video. Okay, you got to listen. There's a video of Tahar admitting this, that Ariah set up an altar to the angel Michael in the school, and Tahar said that's not right. Ariah sold out. Get that through your head.
I do think he sold out, but it wasn't to the Catholics. It was to the cameraman. He sold out to Jermaine Grant. Jermaine Grant got that man to say he was a God-sent comforter, and you know that's not right. So Ariah did sell out, but it wasn't to the Pope. It was to the cameraman. Huh?
What do you say he got him to say it? You got proof of that?
That there's a video. It's at one of their Passovers. It was, I think, 2006.
No, do you have proof that he got him to say it?
Well, how else did he? Well, Ariah.
No, yes or no? Do you have proof that he got him to say it?
Yes, the video.
No, what he's saying is
the video doesn't show proof that he got him to say it. The video just shows Ariah saying it.
On his own is what he asked.
Well, then who got him to say it?
You can't even get your lies straight. Listen.
Who got him to say it then? Okay, let's do that. Do you have video proving that the Pope made Ariah say something?
I made videos on this years ago. I told you I've been on YouTube since 2006. I have a video with them. Listen, we know how the Jesuits operate. Okay, this is not new. You and Abu need to stop saying Abba Bivens started ISUBK. And you admitted that he didn't start it. So why you keep alluding to it?
We don't say that. We always say he started the school that became the ICUPK. We're more precise than what you're saying.
Abba Bivens School was destroyed when he was murdered. What are you talking about? They did not continue the school. They brought in UPK, or Universal Practical Knowledge. They brought in the Son of Mary. That was not what Ariah was taught. You think Ariah was taught to follow the Son of Mary?
Through Joshua, which the world calls Christ. It's right on the screen. Again, Abba Bivens called Jesus the Messiah, because you know what Christ means. You want the school of Torah to be that way. But no, you're not going to get that. I'm reading page 9 of his book. Hold on. You're not going to get it because we got video of people who actually attended, okay? And the elders are OT. They use certain New Testament nuances
like you say, as a gimmick, but that's it. So if you're going to tell the story, you want to be this history buff for One West, get the story straight. ISUPK need to come back to the school of Torah. Drop the idol, and let's finish the work.
Okay.
So Michael Black, can I ask you a question? Because I just
no, that's Michael Smith. That's not Michael Black.
Oh, my bad. So let me ask you this, because I just want to make sure I'm clear. So you saying that Christ or Jesus is an idol?
The son of Mary and his mother, the golden cow and the golden calf, yes.
Okay.
Or
So how did what we call now the One West schools bring in the New Testament teachings? Then when did that develop as opposed to what you're saying they follow formerly?
Excellent question. The original leader, which is Abba Bivens, who we're talking about, set up a school of Torah Tanakh and was murdered, killed. And they destroyed the school of Torah Tanakh and set up years later. That's why he can't give me a date. And one of the sevens is Lahab. How is he there in 1969 when he comes well into the 70s and the school is already started?
Lahab wasn't there in 69. He was a later addition. Everybody knows that.
I just said that.
I know, but you're saying like we said that. We know Lahab was a later addition.
No, I didn't say that. You said that. This is what's put out, that it was started by the seven heads. It was started by the seven heads. They tell us
that. Brother, the seven heads that talk about Lahab being a later addition because he's the one who brought the uniforms and all that. Like they admit that. They
what
don't act
year
like
was ISUPK started?
We do not know the exact year. Sometime in the 70s.
So why you cutting me off?
Sometime in the 70s was the name change. But check this out. Look on the screen. He literally calls Jesus Lord. We find in Romans 10:9, Paul speaking to the natural Gentiles when he said, if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Joshua, as in Yeshua, as in Jesus, shall believe in thy heart that God raised from the dead.
You would love for the school of Torah to promote Jesus.
Brother,
Trust me,
it's
the
on
school
the
of
screen,
Torah,
brother.
we have the elders on video. They did not promote. They did not promote the Son of Mary. Yes, they used some gimmicks. They used some gimmicks, but they did not promote the Son of Mary. Okay.
Why does true or false?
I know you would. Listen, Vocab. I know you would love to please whoever that you whatever you got going, but that's not the case. Stop putting out disinfo. Abba Bivens did not start ISUPK. Is that clear?
True or false? Abba Bivens referred to Jesus as Lord in print.
Is that clear?
We never said that. We said he started the school that
became.
Did say it.
You've been saying it for years.
Nope, we say he started the school that became. That's why we usually just use it One West, because you know they went through like 6 name changes. Huh?
The school was destroyed, and so did the school of Torah and the school of ISUPK are two different schools, okay?
You talking about the fire? Is that what you're talking about? When you said destroyed, are you talking about the fire that happened later on? Hello?
The school of Torah Tanakh and ISUPK are two totally different schools, two totally different teachings, two totally different powers.
Okay. True or false? Mashah was a student of Abba Bivens. True. True or false? Ariah was a student of Abba Bivens. True. True or false? Yaquah was with him when they left, and in a certain sense, a student of Abba Bivens. True. Okay. True or false? They continued on what Abba Bivens started. True. His students continued his work. If they didn't continue it, then what you're saying is everything he did died with him. But what happens is the students continued, and yes, they made changes, which we've talked about. But look, what you're saying, frankly, Michael Smith, we can't really trust you because on the screen.
No, we can't trust you. You're a slanderer and a liar.
I have on the screen, it says the Lord
You
Joshua
slandered me.
in Abba Bivens'
You're
book.
lying now. What are you talking about? Everybody knows you can't be trusted, Vocab. Don't try to play games here.
Did Abba Bivens call Jesus Lord in print? Yes or no?
Did he call him Lord in print? If you say so.
What, are you able to see the screen?
The School of Torah does not promote JC. But
Do you think
deny
promoting
that.
Jesus would be to call him
Okay,
Lord?
so when we replay the videos of the students that went there, what are you going to tell them?
Tell me, who are some of the students' names? Tell me one of them.
I told you the source. I told you the channel to go to.
No, what's one of their names?
I told you these videos are archived.
Do you know any of the
Anybody can
names? Do you know any of the names?
Anybody can go.
So you don't even know the names, do you? One of them was
Anybody
Naphtali.
can go. I'm telling you where the videos are.
One of the names was Naphtali. Naphtali, he died recently. And what Naphtali said is he would go visit Abba Bivens. He was not a student of his because he was going to Harlem to visit him. And you know what he did? He corrected him. He said, come on, Pop, you know that's not right. And Abba Bivens said, yeah, I know it's not right. I just used that to plug him into the truth. So what do we see there? Number one, Abba Bivens getting corrected by what, his own student? No, these are contemporaries of Bivens. I don't think it's fair to call them students. They weren't even at the school. They would go visit him.
You're creating a straw man. I never said that he was a student. You did.
You referred to the men as students several times.
Brothers, listen. Michael Smith, I appreciate you jumping on, bro. Please come on again. Get that contact info. So
yeah, no problem. I'm just, just keep Abba Bivens' name out your mouth, Vocab, unless you're going to tell the truth.
Check it out. I definitely want to chop it up with you. So yeah, hit me up, man. I definitely want to have you on at least for an interview. So, but yeah, we coming up on 3 hours, so we're gonna get ready to let our brother go. But yeah, Michael Smith, come hit me up. So my brother, nobody. what you think, bro? Because as always, when it comes to vocab, it get heated. Captain K must have got tired up because I expected him to jump in, but we'll get them together next.
I really just heard a bunch of conflating, man. Like it's like, okay, if you're saying somebody is wrong and they're asking you for information to disprove what they're saying, if all you can say is I don't know, or go look this up, go look that up, then evidently you just don't know. So how can you tell somebody who's trying to teach you algebra that they wrong and you don't even know how to do addition, if that makes sense to you? So based off that back and forward, I just heard a bunch of conflating. The only person that's pulling stuff up and actually showing literature, times, dates, stamps is Vocab. And I'm not saying that, of course, because he's a Christian brother. You know, I disagree with Christians all the time. Based off that little spiel they just had about Hebrew Israelites, which I'm not a fan of, it was just conflating, man. A whole bunch of conflation, you know. I hate to say it, but Michael Smith, man, to me, you're all right, bro, and we would love to have you come back on the show. Other topics, even the same topic. I mean, I feel like you in it to win it, man. But just know, over here on Paradigm Shift TV, what's out there to say? Source up or what, Pianki?
Shut up.
You already know how it go, man.
No doubt. Hey, listen, it is what it is. So,
I mean, one last thing. This is again from Abba Bivens' book. The book is called Marks of a Lost Race, by the way. And I'm not trying to disrespect the man, but he really needs to read Abba Bivens' own book. If he wants to get a copy, I will send him the PDF. I'm not out here trying to charge off it. We're just trying to make it available so people know the truth, so they don't say things like what he said. Look at this. This man, Abba Bivens, even was writing about Jesus fulfilling Old Testament prophecy. Joshua, Jesus, lived in Nazareth, St. Matthew 2:23, and he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophets, he shall be called a Nazarene. For they who live in Nazarene were called Nazarene. And then he goes on to say Nazarene were black people. Okay, that's what he's trying to prove there. But notice he quotes Matthew authoritatively and refers to Matthew approvingly, where Matthew is referring to Jesus fulfilling Old Testament prophecy. And what has been told and makes perfect logical sense is that one of the reasons Abba Bivens left the school was because he had a dissatisfaction. When I say the school, I'm talking about the commandment keepers. He had a dissatisfaction with their lack of really embracing the New Testament in a more holistic way. And it seems like he wanted to do that. Now, did he go all the way as being a Christian? No, but we've never said that. But he left for a certain reason. That seems to be what it is. The book evidences that. He quotes the New Testament. Remember, the man started out talking about he was an Old Testament only Israelite, Abba Bivens, but it's evidence he wasn't. And if Abba Bivens was an Old Testament only Israelite, isn't he violating thou shalt not lie? Because he's over here acting like he's believing one thing. And then the man said, when did he ever promote Jesus? I showed where he promoted Jesus. I mean, several times. He said, when did he worship? Well, he quotes a passage where he's called Lord. So I find this is why I'm going to this old stuff, is because there's a lot of hearsay and rumor, even by the older men involved with this thing. And what we found is the facts do not always match up with what they're saying. And that's why the hard copies of actual things that were written or said, like when we got, I don't know if he knows, but we got the Abba Bivens audio and cleaned it up and put it on the channel. It's one of the few places you can hear it. And you can hear him preach. Say, sorry, I don't want to go too much on that. Say what?
No, I was saying I saw it, but we got one of the most powerful young scholars.
Hold up, before you bring him in, Bianca, let me say one more thing real quick. I don't know who Michael Smith is, but I want to say this. I'm a former Black Hebrew Israelite. I was in that thing as well, and I'm not saying that I know everything about everything, but I do know a little bit about a little bit. A lot of the stuff Vocab said is true, and it just is what it is. You know, I know Nathaniel. I was up under Elder Lloyd, and Ricard from GOCC. I was in it for a minute. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of connections, a lot of spider webs that come from that, and we do know who the first camps were, and we do know the break off from the first camps, and what camps came after those, and what camps came after those. It's not no secret, man. So I just want to throw that out there.
And here,
man, nobody. Why he come on here and cap, man?
I was just,
what's his name? Michael Smith.
I ain't even talking about Vocab. I'm talking about me and myself.
I was just about to say, look, bro. I just thought you was nobody. So, but look,
you already know I used to be. It's like, you already know.
We got one of the most powerful young scholars in the community in the building. Dagger Squad up. Our brother Young Rocky got a question for you, Vocab. I think you got a question. He might have one for me, Rocky.
What's up, y'all? Y'all can hear me good?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Clear.
How y'all doing, bro? I know y'all at the tail end of the show. How y'all doing tonight, though? Y'all good? Everybody good?
Good.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Vocab hanging in there.
Hey, Vocab, man. A little side. I used to stay. I went to ASU, man. I lived in Arizona for about a year, a little bit over a year. I went to ASU for a year. I was off of I was right across the street from Desert Sky Mall. You know where that is?
Desert Sky, isn't that out? Is that the one in Mesa, or is that the one out west?
Nah, it's on the west side of Phoenix. It's in Phoenix.
Oh,
it's
you
not
went
in
to
Mesa,
ASU, you went to ASU West, didn't you?
Yeah, I was on the Tempe campus.
Wait, no, Tempe campus. Okay, so you went to the main campus. So you went all the way from the west side to Tempe?
Hey, when you in college, you ain't got that bread. You gotta make it do what it do, my man.
Yeah, you was driving around.
Yes, sirski. Yes, sirski.
I used to live in Tempe. I lived on Mill Avenue in Southern, had a little apartment, and then I moved over to some townhouses on University in McClintock for a while because I would.
If y'all ain't talking about Texas, we don't want to hear none of that.
Hey man, I represent the STL St. Louis, so I don't know what these brothers talking about.
Well, my heart's in Columbus, Ohio. I'm just here.
I only spent a year out there. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know much about it, but I ain't really watched the whole thing. I don't got a whole bunch of questions, to be honest, for Vocab or nobody or DMG. I just want to come here, show some love to y'all, man. You know what I mean? I ain't been on in a minute. Just want to show y'all some love, man. And just want to say, bro, was just on, man, Vocab. You know what I mean? He done pulled up everything from the guy himself, from the horse's mouth. He still, you know what I mean? You know how folks, they gonna say what they want to say. When they mind made up, they don't care about what you show them. You know what I mean? Just showing y'all love, though.
Right. We appreciate you, Rocky. And you know, like Bianca say, his casa, su casa, man. You know what I'm saying? You're welcome any time, man. You already know.
Hey, Rocky, I'm trying to clean up the channel, man, so we can keep that writer's corner on here, man. So tell the sister, you know, I'm trying to clean it up. So keep that in mind. I got new power.
Hey, Bianchi, nah, for real though, nah, cause I got a few of my old college professors that I'm still in contact with that'll love to reach out and do some stuff like this. But anyway, I'm gonna let y'all go, man. I'm gonna go ahead and bow out. I'll holler at you, Bianchi. Y'all have a good night, man.
All right,
you
bro.
too, Rocky. Have a good one. Shout out to Rocky.
You know, and that's for those who wondering, that's part of the reason for making the changes to the channel that I'm trying to make, because you know we got people like Rocky reaching out to people, college professors, authors, to come on the channel, and because they see certain behaviors, they like, I don't think so, and so that's a reflection on me. That's a reflection on nobody, and it really ain't us that's doing it. It be our guests who we trying to show respect and love to, but because things get out of hand during the conversation, we have other guests who we trying to build with on another level, not a higher level, but just a different level that are apprehensive about coming on, and so things got to get cleaned up across the board, and so. Take it for what it is. I'm not trying to ostracize anybody, but again, we have a certain audience that we trying to cater to, and it's universal. It's not just one particular section of people. We trying to cater to a wide variety of people, and we're not getting ready to let certain individuals block us from building those bridges. And so if you're mad because Vocab on her, kick rocks till your toes bleed, because we intend to make these kind of conversations occur on a regular basis. So I don't know what to tell you. Go ahead.
And we ain't just trying to cater to the bottom feeders. If that offends you, my bad. You know, y'all say y'all want scholars, y'all want professors, y'all want, you know, these type of people to come bring these information rather than just the average person on the block. So if that's what y'all looking for, we trying to be that home and to bring that stuff to y'all. And certain people just have a certain standard of tolerance. And, you know, if everybody don't go to the barbershop, you know, everybody don't hang out on the block. Some people do this in the classrooms. Some people do this when they're giving lectures, and some people do this stuff on big stages. So since y'all have made it clear that that's what y'all want, that's what we're trying to strive to do. That's the type of content and people that we're trying to bring to y'all. And for the record, Rocky is not a Christian. Rocky just said the same thing I just said about the conversation Vocab just had with Mike. If somebody's showing you a primary source, it is what it is. You don't have to like the person. You don't have to believe in their faith. You can't be the primary source, man. It's when you get it from the horse's mouth, there's nothing better than that.
And what we always say, and I'm not trying to pat my own back, Lil bro, no, I don't even do that. But we say this is the most diverse channel in the community. Rocky, who is on the screen, culture, coffee, cannabis enthusiast, is not a Christian. He just said Vocab legit. I respect it. So, like, real recognize real. And real don't have a color. Real don't have an ethnicity or a nationality. Real just is real. So if you can't get behind the truth and what's real with regards to information and be willing to talk about it and trade information, then I don't know what to tell you. Because this I say paradigm shift, this is where the truth lives for a reason. So I make no apologies for how we trying to build this platform. So I ain't gonna keep being on my soapbox. Vocab, you got anything to say before we jump off?
Well, I appreciate Michael Smith's interest in the history of the One West School. I just wish he could add more positive contributions to the conversation instead of merely just kind of naysaying, because like I said, there's things we don't know, and he doesn't know either, but there's things that are unclear, there's gaps, and so it would be nice if people could come together and figure some of that stuff out. Like some of these older guys, if they would be willing to talk to me, which I don't think most will, I get it, okay, but if they would be willing to talk to me, come on, just to have their story aired, their side of the history, whether I agreed or not, I would tell them, look, you know my position, but if you're going to be able to relay the history and you want to share your view, I'll give you a platform for it, because I think that's important to get out. So like Tahar, even a guy like a Johanna or something, they could give their perspective or view. A Lahab, there's a number of people I could name. I mean, Ariyah, he's like 82 now. And it's kind of sad, even if you don't agree with this thing, it's kind of sad that there's people that were instrumental in something that is important to a lot of people that it's like we're never really going to hear their perspective or view, and some of this is going to be lost if they pass away. And it's just it's better know the truth about what happened, so everyone could make a decision based upon the best information instead of fallacious information. And I know a lot of those folks will never talk to me, but maybe there'll be somewhere they will talk. But a lot of folks aren't very interested in this. Like Daniela kind of hates my guts. I don't hate him or anything like that.
A lot of people hate you like that.
But I think he especially hates me. But he's got like DVD books filled with old videos from stuff that's just sitting there. And he knows stuff like that. He could be an incredible resource if he would be more forthright and say, okay, da-da-da. And I think it would help a lot of people know, okay, we have an understanding. But it's tough because a lot of times when the leaders do it, they just do it from their like kind of propaganda angle. Like, right. And so, that's tough. But nonetheless, maybe one day some people will do it, hopefully before they die. Because like I said, a lot of people that were there, they are getting older. We're Abba Bivens. He was preaching during World War I. There's some of his breakdowns go back to talking about the Kaisers of Germany. And that's because he was preaching during World War I out there in Harlem. This is going back, over 100 years, like we talked about. And so, like it's crazy because there's very few people alive that we know who even knew Abba Bivens. Ariyah knew him, and Ariyah's 82. There's like the connections are thinning out. Like when I was a kid, I knew a lot of people from World War II. They were older men. Now, knowing someone who was alive during World War II is almost impossible. Hardly anybody knows who was alive during World War II. And that history just disappears unless someone records it. So, anyway.
We still got Captain America, so.
Yeah, Cap's like, hey, you need him on here because he can go language.
Right. There you go. So, well, I want to say this, though, because I think that we get caught up in the hypeness of these conversations sometimes. But I think it's important to unravel these things. And I know if Cap didn't have something that he had to attend to, he would have jumped on with some of the back and forth in the chat. But like I said, I'm gonna try to set up a dialogue between y'all about that very thing at a later time. But I think it's important to have these conversations because a lot of this history is completely unknown. Like I didn't realize how far back this thing went, like to the 1800s.
1890. Well, late 1800s.
Late 1800s. Yeah. I'm thinking that this is, a 20th century invention. Like I said, sort of along the lines of Moorish Science Temple, Nation of Islam, and then later, the 5% nation sort of thing. I'm thinking that that's kind of what it's in line with because of the language with the white man is the devil the Bible speaks of and things of that nature. I'm thinking they kind of was taking their cues from those movements. But I see this is actually an older movement, although it's different variations because Zion Lex, if I'm not mistaken, is an Old Testament.
Old Testament only. He goes back and forth if Jesus even existed.
And so where did that pick up? Because the gentleman who you showed us kicked this off believed in Jesus, or at least, said the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
He just viewed himself as a Christian evangelist. He just happened to also teach this. The earliest forms of this are almost just Judaic Christianity. They're basically like
so it's
Christian.
kind of like what we have with the moderates now.
I think so to an extent. However, my sneaking suspicion is that if I met Reverend William Christian, he would shake my hand, and if I needed a sandwich, he would give me a sandwich, and if he needed a sandwich, he would take one from me. I mean, he would allow me to give it to him. I don't know if that's quite the case with a lot of
we don't feed Africans, we don't feed Europeans, we ain't feed none of y'all.
I'm saying with the moderates, a lot of the modern
is that the stance?
A lot of the modern moderates have been influenced by One West, and I think they're more bigoted than Crowdy and Christian were. That's my assessment, which is fascinating because think about Crowdy was born into slavery. Christian as well. These men were born when slavery was legal. William Crowdy's original name, his overseer called him Wilson. He renamed himself when he ran away at 16 as William, more dignified name. Like, these men had a reason to be really bad bigots, right?
I was about to say, so what you're saying is, to be clear, you have men who were born into slavery that aren't as bigoted as people who were born.
Even some of the moderates, though, like, he doesn't like when I say his name, but to me, Dante Fortune is clearly a bigot, and the stuff he said about me and other Christians is totally should not be allowed by anyone who says they believe the Bible. That's just one example. He's not the only one, and I think the guys who say they don't even like the term moderate. I don't even use it anymore. I just will sometimes say non-campers. They're not in a camp because I don't think they're moderate.
That's funny within itself, because it's like they was like, "Hey, stop calling us Israelites, or stop putting us with them camps." So Brother Berean and another person, I don't know who else it was, so they started calling them moderates. This dude, Dante Fortune, take moderate as a bad word. Moderate just means non-extreme. How you put it don't make no sense, bro.
Yeah, but Dante Fortune, look at his community post a couple of months ago, showed a picture of his gun. And said, basically was saying, "Hey, I'll use this on y'all if I need to."
Yeah. Like, he did it before.
Something, because I just assumed the moderates were more or less Christians, like black people who are Christians.
It kind of depends.
Who are saying that we not African, we are Israelites, but we still Christians.
It kind of depends, though. It kind of depends on who you, because, like, I watch a lot of Brother Berean, and I go on his channel myself.
Well, you remember, I took offense to how they kind of flipped on Brother Berean after he opened up his platform.
Well, they totally turned on him.
I've never met Brother Berean, but just respecting what he do, I was like, how y'all gonna flip on a man and he been opening up his platform to you?
And them was the moderate ones, right? Them was the ones saying that, okay, we're not down with the camps. Like you saying, Pianki, we believe that we Christians. We are Christians, but we just believe that we Hebrews, right? And then once dialogue started going on over the years, and they making up professors, and then it just come down and just blow up. Like Vocab said, a lot of it.
I ain't letting you.
It's true. No, it's true. It's just funny he brought it up. It's true. What he's saying.
I was on the camp. Yeah, I was on the camp, man. So,
I remember you mentioning this to me before. Go back to the made up professor thing. I know Vocab got to go, so keep it brief, but because I want him to close out.
Okay, these dudes were trying to prove that some of our ancestors back then were Hebrews, right? And they were saying that it's this church in Atlanta that whatever his name is, that's over Boom Church. He was saying that how we know that they was Hebrews because we got Hebrew writing on back of one of the pews. So the urban apologists started challenging them. Okay, prove that it's Hebrew. They couldn't find no professor who agreed with them that it was Hebrew, so they made up one. And
shout out to D New. She owned it, because now that she put that name up there, I remember what happened.
Dr. Richard Katz.
Professor Cat, yeah. And watch,
Nick, you know what I'm going to do next year? We're going to celebrate his birthday when he turns 3. He turns 3 next year.
So Pierre, it turns out that the dude of Boom Church, I can't think of his name for nothing.
William Brown, right?
William Brown. Him. Allegedly, he was emailing himself, right? he was emailing himself, and how people figured it out, because he using the same IP address that he was sending it to and getting it back from. You see what I'm saying? And it just blew up. It just blew up in his face. It just blew up, man.
He's all like, that sounds like something I would say.
And when because you know how scholars send information to another person, right? You know, they got like headline, they got letterheads and stuff like that, and how they put PhD and the way they type it and split it and all that. His is totally like Vocab just said. We gonna celebrate the 3-year-old birthday, because he writing like he's 2 years old.
Well, no, because his birthday when they invented him.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Oh yeah, D New points out it was the same phone brand too, because it says the information in the email.
So he's sending himself the messages back and forth.
And the location was not in Jerusalem, as they were saying. They said he was sending it from Israel. And then when they brought it up, they're like, well, maybe he was on sabbatical, maybe he was stateside when he sent the email.
Hold on. And Dante Forson
killing me right now, man.
Dante Forson ended up, sharing some of the information, right? But then once it got brought out that Richard Katz wasn't a real person, all of a sudden he was like, I didn't have nothing to do with that. I wasn't even involved in that. Like, the dude just straight deceiver, bro. All of them, really. I mean, them people right there. But then again, you do have some moderates that come on Brother Berean's channel, and they not like them. They consider themselves Christian, but they think that they Hebrew. And, they believe in Jesus, they believe in the Trinity, they believe in all that. But them radical ones, see, now we got to find another name for the ones like Dante Forson.
I'm just going non-campers. That's the only thing I've been able to come up with. Or non-one West.
I wouldn't consider them moderates. According to me, I wouldn't even consider them moderates, because they just far left, man. And one more thing. People like Dante Forson and the other ones, they are more dangerous, bro, because at least the camps are out there saying, forget the church, don't go to church, all this. So we know where they stand. The moderates are in the church. You know what I'm saying? Drawing our people away and getting them to go left. So I think that's more dangerous, in my opinion.
I think they're less forthright, more sneaky.
Yeah, sneaky. Yeah,
and
sneaky.
They have an army of non-existent professors on their side. So there's a lot to be. Bro,
you go on Dante Forson, bro. If you go on Dante Forson page, this is what he do. He just put out information, right? When you debunk one thing, he said, but what about this? You debunked that, but what about this? You debunked that. Bro, come on, man. If you ain't nobody finna go through 7,000 different sayings, bro. Like, come on, man. You got to give it up at some point, man. You got to give it up.
I rep Dagger Squad all day. He said some more crazy stuff about Garfield, so I don't like him based on that, and based on how he flipped on Brother Berean. I want all the smoke with Dante Forson. Like, you're a fraud. Period.
He gonna try to sue you, bro. He gonna make a Christmas list. He gonna make a Christmas list and put you on it, bro.
Go for it.
Yeah, he did a whole video called "How to Sue Vocab Alone." Just look it up; it's still on YouTube.
Wow, that dude's a clown, bro.
And then he went on Change.org and started a petition to try to label me the head of a hate group called Urban Apologists.
Yes, I remember that. That was that Christmas list. He tried, everybody that said my name, I'm gonna put y'all on this list, and y'all got something coming, man. It's been a year and a half later. Ain't nothing happened. Come on,
well,
bro.
I think the list is still up. I'm still leading this urban apologetic anti-Semitic hate group out here.
Ain't nobody got no message. Ain't nobody got no summons. Ain't nothing came in the mail.
Anti-Semitic, huh? Wow.
Yeah, because they're supposedly Semitic.
Yeah,
so.
Right. He's anti-Semitic, bro. He tried to get the urban apologists sued for telling them that they're not Israelites, and then file it under anti-Semitic. Come on, like, for real, bro.
Man, you gonna get laughed at, man. That is
dude, clown, bro.
That's funny, man. And he was serious.
Yes, he was. Oh, he was dead serious. He was dead serious.
And like I just, bruh, this stuff is so, it's so out of hand, man. Because like I don't know, man. But see, so here's the thing, Vocab, and this is my last question, man. I'm gonna have y'all close out because this is what I know, and I know that like this is a fact. Cap 10K is a good brother. Like this, like I said, he hit my wife up, my queen, you know, and I'm coming out of a medical procedure, and nobody could tell you, you know, it was something that was of great concern to me. I think I mentioned it to you briefly, based on my family history and some symptoms I was having. It turned out to be a non-issue, but you know, nobody knew that going in. And the brother hit my wife up, you know, said he wanted to surprise me and beat her when I woke up. Now, that's not just a random arbitrary thing for somebody to do. You know what I mean? This is a good brother. When my mother was in the hospital getting her operation for breast cancer, he called me, asked me did I need anything, asked me was there anybody else up there. It was just me, my siblings wasn't there. He was like, you need me to come up there and sit with you? Just, you know, no questions asked, no, you know. And so I know that these are good people and good brothers who genuinely are looking out for their people. Like I say with the food drive they do. That's why I make it a point. He don't ask me to do it, but I make it a point to let people know they feed everybody, black, white, Chinese, whoever come, they get food at these food drives. Because I think that's important because of the rap that they get. And so when you see that, do that give, and nobody, you can answer this too, do that give you any pause as to the, not necessarily the criticism of the belief, but the criticism of, if there's any personal criticism of the individuals, and what's your take on that when you see those acts of kindness? Because to me, that's genuine.
Yeah. And in that case, the stuff they do, the stuff he do for the community and all that, I think Cap a good person, man. Take the Christian, take the Israelite, take the KEMETIC, just take all our beliefs off of it. I ain't got no issues with Cap on that. I think the dude a good dude. Now, but if we add the religious and stuff aspects to it, I just think that he deceived on that end. But as a person, yeah, Cap somebody where if he stayed in my city, we probably would hang out all the time. Go to chill, hang out. My wife would probably hang with his wife or any of that stuff. Just like you, Pierre, you well, I don't want to say committed, but you know, agnostic, whatever you want to call yourself, you that and look at our bum, bro. You know, I think you a genuine good person, as I know you think about me. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't got, if we take all the like I say, all the religious and all that stuff off of it, I think mostly everybody I met since I've been on YouTube, I think all y'all cool people, man. Like real talk. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I think if we all was to hang out with each other or something, ain't nobody finna be fighting nobody, punching nobody in the face. We'll probably be laughing, joking, talking a little trash. You know what I'm saying? But it would be good.
You and Cap might fight. Y'all might fight.
I mean, if Cap want to fight, tell him I said, what's up with me?
Just to be clear, y'all might fight, but nah, go ahead.
I know. You know, I ain't finna fight nobody. But nah, overall, I think Cap a good dude, man. Like I say, put all the religious stuff to the side, man. Cap will be like you or the people who I hang out with, even in my own city, man. I can vibe with Cap all day.
Well, you know, you talk about them feeding people, yes, unless they're African.
Well, that's what Cesariak said. I think Cap is a little different.
Well, that was the cookout. That was the cookout. Now the food drive, anybody can come. Now that I know that for a fact.
But remember, if you watch the full video with Sonetta and the young man, Cesariak continues on and he says, that's why when I see a white homeless man, an African homeless man, I'm happy. they're in that condition because of what they did to us.
Right.
So imagine going down the street and seeing an African homeless man and be like, get him. That's his mentality. So I'm glad he's feeding. I'm glad they're feeding somebody food somewhere, but not that African homeless man.
That's sad thing like that though.
Yeah. Hey, you know. That's my whole. Hey, you remember our whole debate? And speaking of shameless plug, so me and Cap got a discussion coming up. I put the flyer out when we set a date. Or Africans, our brothers and sisters, or Native Americans, our brothers and sisters. And y'all know that this is a spinoff.
You already know.
Debate we had, where I showed the 5 civilized tribes had African Americans, quote unquote, as slaves. So, you know, we're going to get into the nuances of that conversation, and that'll be me and Cap 10K having another one of our dialogues. We'll probably have a brother nobody.
Hey, that's true. You know what else you could show them? There's been a big rigmarole with the Seminoles and the Black Seminoles, where some of the reparations, the financial remuneration that Seminoles got, they was keeping the Black Seminoles out of it.
Exactly.
It's like, this is Seminole money for Seminoles only.
Exactly. Like the Trail of Tears that people always talk about, it was even more tearful for those black slaves that these Native Americans had, because they carried the burden during the Trail of Tears. Like this is stuff don't nobody like. And here's the thing, I'm not saying this. The 5 civilized tribes are saying this. So it's not like I'm making this up. And so we're gonna get into the conversation, and we're gonna bring out the facts as we know them, because you know those things are different from each perspective. So me and my brother Nobody, I don't know if it's going down tomorrow or if we're gonna push it to next weekend, but we'll be talking about the recent abortion uproar with Roe versus Wade, and is the God of the Bible pro-life, and is abortion ever moral? That'll be between me and my brother Nobody, and Cap 10K will be moderating that discussion. So y'all come back and watch that. If
I do want to do it tomorrow, bro, but we probably got to push it back, because you seen how many times I had to leave to go tend to my daughter. So it probably be the same thing tomorrow.
Exactly. So, you know, until my little niece get a little better, we're gonna postpone that, and we'll let y'all know when we're doing that. But these some of the conversations we got on the table. Hopefully we'll be able to get the notorious, infamous Vocab Malone back in another few weeks to chop it up with Cap, or just chop it up with me and Nobody again. I thought this was a fun conversation. So and you know, I know it's a few more questions me and him can kind of get into about African spiritual concepts.
Yeah, I like how Vocab pressure on that. Yeah, I want to see that. I want to see that discussion.
Outside of the Hebrew talk, and just me and him chopping it up on that, because from West African culture, and I think this would be something that me and you could talk about with regards to Obatala and Olarum, with regards to a supreme deity that's omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent, sending its or his, because it depends on who's telling the story, whether it's a female or a male deity, but sending his son to create humanity and the world, etc. And again, this predates Christianity, but these concepts are so similar that even now in West Africa, the Yoruba people refer to the God of the Bible as Obatala or as Olarum. So those are some things we can kind of get into and dialogue about as well with regards to African spiritual concepts. So you know, I'm open to all of it, and like I say, man, I'm looking forward to having you back on. I appreciate you coming on and taking the time. So we've been at it for almost 3.5 hours. I'm gonna let you close out, bro. I appreciate it.
All right, God bless. Hey, be sure to ask Cap if he thinks it's moral or immoral for the Chinese government to enforce abortions on Chinese children, or if he doesn't care about that.
He don't care.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because abortion, yeah, but it's interesting. What does he think it's wrong for the Chinese to kill their babies?
Yeah.
Or is that something that's a good act, perhaps?
Well,
I gotta go, man. I'll let y'all deal with it. I gotta go.
Hey,
he gonna say God never gave them the law.
Peace. I gotta go.
Go ahead. All right, Vocab. Peace.